It's time for
DodgerHeads.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into DodgerHeads Trade Deadline Edition Special. My name is Scott Gearman. This is DodgerHeads presented by DodgerBlue.com website and podcast. I'm here with my good buddy, Anthony Witrato, Vince Ampero. Gentlemen, it's really good to see you. Trade deadline. How we feeling? I'll start with you, Vince. What's up, buddy?
What's up, man? How's it going? Feeling good. I mean, the Dodgers got their stuff done on Saturday night. Everything else was gravy on top. We got to talk about Ben a little bit this morning on DodgerHeads Unplugged. I'm sure we'll get into Kris Bubic here in this one. But I don't know. I don't expect much else from the Dodgers unless it's maybe some players going out for some future young talent.
Yeah, we're keeping an ear to the pulse. I'm refreshing the Twitter feed here on the side, so we'll keep everybody up to date there. But Anthony, man, it's good to see you this morning. How was the show last night? Big news, Tarik Skubal, buddy. I mean, where are you at this morning? Where are you at morning? Where are you at this afternoon?
Yeah, man. Good. It was a good show last night. It was lively. Coming off the sweep, right? Like, there was the obvious, predictable sort of like, hey, let's doom. But we got out of that. We talked ourselves through it. And then, we got onto the more important things, I think, for the rest of the season and how that Skubal trade plays out. And we got a lot of extension talk with Bruce, who will be in here later. So that was good. We got to kind of kick that around a bit. And then Bruce did a good job of course, of breaking down, the prospects that Detroit got in return and sort of just where they fit in terms of, like historically, right? A rental ace and kind of what that package, in return looks like typically and where the Dodgers one ranks and all of that stuff. And then I spent part of my day perusing shows and chats and things like that from the Giants, the Padres, the Brewers. Very interested in Brewers local media right now.
Yeah.
I was listening to some before I hopped in here, and there's a decent, I will say that I'll give some of the local Brewers or Milwaukee media credit, because it's about 50-50 of like they should have done more and then 50% kind of bootlicking the organization. I thought it'd be a lot more bootlicking than it was, calling them to task, which I think they deserve to be in this situation.
Yeah, the Brewers really just not an odd deadline. I mean, make the move. They missing out on Tarik Skubal. I would say missing out because even to what Tarik Skubal said, I mean, speaking to every organization around the league, how teams could have done this. I mean, Bruce retweeted this. This is from Jason Beck, Detroit Tigers reporter for MLB.com. He said, while we wait for the MLB trade deadline, this is from MLB Pipeline, Tarik Skubal was the first deal since at least 2004 in which two top 100 prospects were traded for a rental. The Dodgers traded Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz to the Nats for Scherzer at the 2021 deadline, but also got Trey Turner. So what the Dodgers gave up for Tarik Skubal, it was a package, right? But for a team like the Brewers, where you feel that Jacob Misiorowski is having a Cy Young type of season, an all-world type of season. Anthony, you and I have been on here many times, giving Misiorowski his flowers and how incredible he's been with what the Brewers could have done and what they gave up just now, a little bit ago, for Jojo Romero and Dustin May from the St. Louis Cardinals. They could have gone and made this trade for Tarik Skubal, and they very well should have. But they sit on their hands. They wait for this, and they don't want to pony up. I don't want to get too long-winded in that explanation because I'll bring up my point about why teams like the Brewers and don't make these type of trades. But I'm with you, man. There's the Brewers organization should be held accountable, to the conversation of why they made this type of move, but why you don't pony up for the big fish.
Yeah, look, I think that we broke this down last night, so I'll be quick about it here. But here's the idea: the Brewers have the top farm system in baseball by most accounts. To do what it would have taken to beat a package of Hope and River Ryan as the headliners would have taken, their farm system would have taken a hit, same as the Dodgers did. But we're talking at the very worst, and we're not saying they would have had to give up their number 1, number 2 prospects. The Dodgers didn't, but it would have taken them from the top farm system in baseball to maybe at worst the number 5 farm system in baseball, and they land Skubal as a rental, and then they go Miz, Skubal, or Skubal, Miz all throughout the playoffs. And that 2-ace system, teams have ridden those arms to championships. It's a proven method, and when you got guys that good, Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling, Pedro Schilling, there's examples of you get 2 locked in aces and you can ride them all the way. This was one of those opportunities for the Brewers. You don't know how often it might come around. And they fumbled the bag. And, there's reports that, well, the Tigers were really focused on the Dodgers package, or some in Brewers land are saying like, well, I'm hearing the Brewers package was actually better. They just didn't take it, but they can't give names. And so, if that's the case, okay, it is what it is. But if you're the Brewers, why are you, the whole reason you put those things, the reason you pay attention to your farm the way you do is so you can have sustained success. But sustained success, we watched the Dodgers do it for 10 years before they had any like real success. Or 8 years or whatever it was before 2020. When that opportunity presents itself to go like, we can up our World Series chances by like 15%, do it, because those opportunities don't come around every year.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that, Vince. I'll come to you in just a second. But to exactly that, Anthony, with what you said, man, I mean, the Dodgers are opportunistic with this stuff, that you have the ability, a player like this becomes available. I explained this to 2 people in the last 24 hours, that when a player like this becomes available, you do everything you can to try to acquire that player within reason. And for teams like the Dodgers, for teams like the Brewers that have their ability to draft, develop, if they would like to retain, and then like the Brewers do and other teams around the league, extend. You want to utilize your entire farm system, prop these guys up, use them. What the Brewers do is they draft, retain, develop, and extend, and they don't want to trade from the crop at the top. They don't want to do that. They utilize those guys at the big league level, trade in the margins, Isaac Collins, Caleb Durbin, and they acquire other guys there. So the
funny thing is with that too, Scott, is on Sunday, Chris Rose brought this up. I don't want to take credit for it, but on Sunday, their lineup, which was their pretty much normal lineup, had 5 homegrown players in it. 5. Everybody else was either a trade or a free agent signing. The Dodgers on any given night have 4 homegrown guys, right? So while it is a way to sustain their success, they're not completely relying on it now.
Yeah. Vince, what do you make of the Milwaukee Brewers holding off? Just not being as aggressive as the Dodgers were with Tarik Skubal. What do you make of that, and them today going with Jojo Romero and Dustin May as they're bolstering their rotation, adding to that bullpen in the Brewers lab, because we know what they can do with guys who have elite stuff. What do you make of their kind of aggressiveness or lack thereof, or do you think the Detroit Tigers just targeted the Dodgers, that we like what they have to offer and we're going to go with them?
Yeah, the Dodgers and Tigers have a little bit of familiarity, so maybe there is some familiarity with the system there. They made the trade for Jack Flaherty a couple of years ago. They almost had the trade for Erod the year before that. So maybe there's part of that. They have maybe guys that used to scout together, or something. They have some personal relationships. Maybe there's something like that where it goes beyond just, the numbers of that we see from other publications that put out these prospect rankings. The part for the Brewers and a lot of these other teams now, when it kind of comes to it, and this is how the Dodgers were, you want to trade from what you have, not trade from surplus, trade from, guys that you maybe don't have a spot directly to the majors in the next couple of years, but you want to keep, the ability to move forward and keep winning. The Dodgers were in that. They were in that cycle. They made some of these trades, Yu Darvish back. This is even back then, Yu Darvish, everybody thought they were going to have to give up a bunch of names, and it ended up being, Willie Calhoun and a couple other guys that ultimately didn't end up doing anything. I think right now what the issue is with like Tigers and stuff like that for not making that big deal is they think it's going to hurt them in the short or in the long term, but it also hurts them in the short term. Like the Dodgers are trying to defy the baseball playoffs being a crapshoot. They're trying to give themselves the best chance possible by just not having those holes. Or if they do end up losing a series, it's because one of those people failed. And realistically, who are you going to get mad at if you have 4 of the top 15, 20 pitchers and one of them fails? That's just a matter of, hey, it happens sometimes. I think the Brewers are maybe worried about that part a little bit of, we just need to get into the playoffs. The Dodgers have kind of taken that off the table. No, you need to get into the playoffs, and you need to have somebody available to beat a team like the Dodgers. And yeah, it sucks for those teams that aren't making that move and aren't, because I mean, even Jackson Chourio, who is that guy, I don't necessarily say he'd be a game changer for them here in year 2 or 3, whatever he's in. So, Tarik Skubal, that's a game changer, even if it's just for 2 months and, 3-4 starts in a playoff series. But if it brings that World Series, then, I talked about this the other day with the Tony Watson, O'Neal Cruz trade. The Dodgers had won the World Series that year. O'Neal Cruz could be a 10-time All-Star, and I wouldn't care because that 2017 team would have won the World Series, and Tony Watson would have helped that. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, sometimes you just got to go in. You can't just tread water forever.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Vince. Like I was covering the Brewers in 2008 when they traded for CeCe, and they got him well before the deadline, and he had made 4 or 5 starts, I think, if I recall correctly. It's been a while, but before the deadline even happened. And
I remember you talked to me about this story. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
And somebody I was talking to in Milwaukee brought that up, and they're like, well, it's different because they got him before. And I said, okay, you're leaving a part out. They were not a playoff team when they traded for him. They needed every single start from him. The Brewers don't need a damn start from Tarik Skubal the rest of the regular season. They just need him on October 1st to be on that roster. They have the best record in baseball right now. They're going to get into the postseason. It's when they get there, do they have the horses to carry them to the World Series championship? I don't think Mizorowski's enough, and their offense doesn't have any pop. So if you're not going to get a bat, and there's really not a bat out there that's a difference maker in that way, Skubal's a difference maker. Go get that guy. And so I bring up the CeCe thing also because it changed the course of that franchise and how it operated. They went from like kind of the little engine that could to like they started to be aggressive. They signed Ryan Braun to another extension later. They made the trade for Christian Yelich. Like they started to do things that they had not done in the past. And it feels like they've gone back to just being super conservative now with the really good farm system, and they're content in doing that. Like Dustin May's not the guy. I'm sorry. We've seen him, and I'm glad he's doing well, but he's not the guy. He's not Tarik Skubal. He's not a guy that you're going to ride in the postseason, who's going to make, 6 starts and absolutely carry a team by the collar to a pennant. You should have made that move because you don't know how long these windows are open for you, especially when you're a smaller market team who's not going to spend.
Yeah, and I'm pulling up. I see the chats talking about some good things right now, especially with, like Chicago Cubs and what they're doing. I'll get to their moves here in just a second because what they're doing is really interesting. And you brought up the Milwaukee Brewers prior to the CeCe trade. And what I just listened to a podcast the other day about, with CeCe Sabathia and the whole Milwaukee Brewers thing. And the Dodgers, they actually had wasn't it a deal in place to get CeCe, but the ownership did not want to pay the money for it. So that whole thing could have,
Dodgers
about these little things. Dodgers ownership nixed that. They didn't want to pick up the extra cash. Stuff would have changed. The whole trajectory of that would have been changed dramatically there. Got a super chat here from Lakers Dodgers guy 23 says, is there anything else? Are you talking to, you're talking about Dodgers. Yeah, I saw you make that correction. Los Angeles Dodgers need to do aside from maybe dumping Call and or Lauer. I think they're good. Maybe another middle reliever. We talked about the Kris Bubic trade. That's an interesting one we'll talk about in a sec. But Lakers Dodgers guy, I think like the bat is something that would be intriguing. I don't know if there's some way that they can make that happen. We'll see. The Call move is one that I definitely can see. But it's just going to be a move on the margins. I would like a bat. I think they don't need an injection of something, but maybe just a fresh face, somebody that can fit a different need that they currently have on this roster. I don't have a name for you.
They already made their blockbuster trade. Ben Rortvedt
Yeah, they already made their blockbuster trade in Big Ben Rortvedt. So if you haven't heard,
Just
didn't hear
in time
about
for
that,
Vince's show this morning. That was nice.
yeah, that's facts. Give you a nice little bit of give you a nice little boost there. Can always use more middle relief. You can always use more middle relief. I saw maybe they kicked the tires on Chris Martin. I know that he's been terrible this season, but who knows? I mean, they might just try to buy low. But Halverson, like that's a guy that they have in the organization that is displaying unbelievable stuff. So I don't believe that they need to go out and make an effort to go do that. They have guys in the organization. I think they can handle that. And admin says Scotty wants Abrams. I do want Abrams. If CJ Abrams is Los Angeles Dodgers by like in this blue by the end of this stream, oh man, the missus is getting a 2027 Escalade immediately. I'll go into major debt for that. Yeah, you guys agree there? I mean, we can save a little bit, but do you think anything substantial else is coming?
I don't know. I said it on this morning show. I think another arm. Bubic might be that arm. That you talk about the bullpen, and I'm always in the camp of you can use another arm, but also they got those arms. Like with the addition of Skubal, and then the addition of Snell when he comes back, and then if Glasnow ever comes back as well. There's a lot of guys that are moving into that bullpen that kind of push it into a little bit different category, a little bit different situation. And I want to see some of the guys that are, Will Klein, who went on the IL. I talked about him last week. Of kind of think he's just never been this important on like a major. Well, he hasn't been this important on like a major league team, and innings wise, he's not thrown more innings than he has in the past. But innings that matter wise, yeah, he's throwing more innings than those of the past. So I think it's just a little bit of a blow. Some of these guys a little bit of a blow. We saw Kai Hurt go down for a little bit. Now he's back up. We'll see if he kind of progresses and keeps and finds himself a spot. But with Diaz back, with Tanner Scott moving down, with everyone else moving down a bit, some of those guys from the rotation moving in, the Dodgers, it would have been funny if just the deadline was like Bubic and Rortvedt, because it would have been similar to like a couple of the past deadlines where it's like, really, that's it? That's all that happened? But then you think about Skubal on top of that, and they're right where they want to be.
Yeah, and a little, pretty big time news. Red Sox are making some unbelievable stuff. Doing some stuff today to get Adley Rutschman for an unbelievable haul. That was a massive haul there, but they just sent Marcelo Meyer from the Red Sox, sending him to the San Francisco Giants for reliever Eric Miller. Marcelo Meyer, former top prospect guy, big time, and he wonder where he's at now that you're going to trade him for a reliever. So pretty substantial day for the Boston Red Sox. Yeah, TQT, nice pull by them. We'll see if they can get him back to where he's at. But other teams are prospect rankings, prospect value. It's an odd day so far, man. This is a really weird one, huh?
Yeah, I think some of this is like a product of so many teams still thinking they have a real chance. And so like you're not seeing, I think, some of the names that might typically be on the market. I don't think those guys are going to move right now. So it's sort of like Skubal was obviously the big guy. And like on the other side, there's not really that marquee name that's even available, right? Like I haven't seen a lot of rumors about CJ Abrams or Wood or anybody like that. Like I think the Nationals are holding, and so it can make for a little bit of a boring situation. Like from the drama standpoint, I think Major League Baseball was feeling like Skubal wasn't going to be traded until today, and that would carry it. But they made the move when they made the move, and that was the big shot that everybody had, and it came on a Saturday night.
Yeah, that's the Dodgers got ahead of this here right after last start. I know I saw some quotes from Tarik Skubal. He was talking about like the dialogue. He felt that after his last start that he'd be traded by the deadline. Like that was a thing. So got the sense there. Hilarious outfit by Tarik Skubal in this, with him speaking to the media today. I don't know if you gotta look at that there. It's from Jack Harris. I'll put this up on screen here real quick. It's one of the funniest things I've seen. Let me pull this up here. What a beast. Look at this beast. Look at David Vassay right here. That's pretty. Look at Tarik Skubal, man.
Our guy Fabian on the phone.
Fabian's on the phone right there in the thick of it. He's got the headband cut off. Is that with a hoodie? Oh man.
Yeah, they give him the cutoff hoodies now. I think they make them that way.
This pick doesn't even have the shoes that he's wearing in there. Our guy Blake Williams will be all over this type of outfit. Blake will have those shoes by tomorrow. He'll put them on express delivery. Those things are unbelievable. So all world lefty Tarik Skubal, Blake's new favorite player because of how he dresses. So yeah, here we go. Jake says he looks like he's dressed to celebrate a World Series win. Skubal in track pants too. He's in the what's it called? He's in the Dodger stuff that everybody hated that I liked. Let me see here. All right, but look around the league again, guys. I mean, I'm thinking it's going to be a pretty quiet leading up to the deadline here for the Dodgers. I think they've made their moves. I think, with Bubic, I think that's, something that get himself back. I know he's up to 80 feet throwing right now. So there's a lot of things that you can like with him. I just saw some numbers with him as a reliever. If that was from 2024, ramp it up. He's had success this year. So when he's healthy, can be a productive arm. But Anthony, with that move there, where are you feeling the vibe is with guys like Emmet Sheehan, Shohei Ohtani, or does that have just no impact? Insurance arms for him.
Yeah,
they gave up nothing. They gave up nothing to get Bubic. They gave up zero.
Like I think that had a big. It's a big reason why the trade happened is for that. So, yeah, look, I think it's a situation where they've come to learn that you can never have enough. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like it's fair. It's fair. Like you never want to say that. And the second you start trading from a surplus of starting pitching is the second you need it. So. Look, I think that going forward, if it's anything, it just might be some bullpen depth. I don't think it's going to be any like big names. Just, hey, get us through now these next 2 months, because come October, we talked about this on the show last night. You come the playoffs, some of those bullpen holes are going to be filled by starting pitching, by the starting pitchers, guys like Roki, guys like Robleski, potentially, a piggyback situation with like Ohtani and Glass now, depending on where they're at, like those kinds of things. So I think it basically just arms to tide them over until they get to October.
Yeah. The Milwaukee Brewers acquired Colorado Rockies right-hander Antonio Senzatella, who has ramped it up pitching out of the bullpen this year. A lot of appearances. He's racking up wins, back-end stuff for them, getting some saves for the Colorado Rockies. So the Brewers, man, they're going for it in their own way, staying within their means, not going for the big fish. They're doing their stuff there. But Senzatella, interesting arm. The Brewers are going for it in their own way, loading up with pitchers who have some versatility. So credit to them, credit to what they're doing with their front office and their team. Offense-wise, they play their brand of ball. I mean, we're going to see them at some point in the postseason. That stuff lines up. But it's honestly, guys, it's really good to see. It's good to see some movement. I won't lie to you. This has been a really fun deadline. Yeah. Vince, most surprising thing for you so far at this trade deadline?
That the Angels finally started selling. I know they got a new GM. He's been out there. Their first trade kind of got panned a few days ago with O'Hoppe and Silseth for, they're making fun of just a prospect named Angel. But they've done pretty well since then. Jose Soriano to the Blue Jays. They've traded Brent Suter to the Braves. They traded Joe Adell to the Guardians. Like a lot of guys on the way out, and a lot of guys that weren't necessarily pending free agents. Not a lot of rentals. Guys that had a little bit. They improved their farm system for sure, probably tenfold. Maybe they'll get out of the top. Maybe they'll get into the, before not the 20s, not starting with a 20 for their farm system. But yeah, but that's probably the most surprising, just because we've never really seen them do it. Or with Artie at the helm, and then kind of just similar to the Brewers and trading water, just a different set of water. They're a little bit in deeper waters for them. But yeah, that was probably the most surprising. And then the Cubs on the flip side going for it. We haven't really seen that from the Cubs in a while. They've, Cubs fans have kind of been upset with the front office, and it's not quite Tarik Skubal level, but they filled out their rotation. They got a bat here with Tyrone Taylor. I don't know if they have enough to overtake the Brewers, but they have enough to make you think in a playoff series and to push through, and enough arms that kind of give them a chance that they didn't have before. So I think it's a good thing for all these teams to like kind of figure out who they are, what they are, and go after it. And two different sides right here with the Angels and Cubs. Angels realizing, hey, we're going to be bad for a while. Let's lean into it. The Cubs, hey, we have a chance with these guys that we have right now. Let's give them a little bit of a better chance.
Brian Cashman getting stuffed with not getting a catcher, and they're just going to roll with Austin Wells, right? Like that's pretty funny to me. They go ahead and get Luis Garcia. He's a stud from the Washington Nationals. I think he leads Major League Baseball in slugging this year at the National League at least. I mean, he's terrific, man. He's had a breakout season for them. He was good even last year. They just acquired Heliot Ramos from the Giants as well for Henry Lillane. So prospects going to the San Francisco Giants there. Buster Posey kind of not pulling the plug on everything because there's not a shot in hell you can get rid of any of their high price guys. Matt Chapman. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on shortstop. Willie
Adames and
Willie Adames. Yeah, not a chance you're getting out of that. So doing a soft sell. So we'll see what they do.
And they're not trading. I don't think they're trading Lee. Obviously, they're not trading Eldrick. Like they're having an interesting deadline. I think they're moving what they can and getting what they can. But when you have those three on your roster and they make as much as they do, you can only do so much. And if they're unwilling to trade some of the other pieces that people might actually really want,
no doubt,
they can only go so far. Like that's a bad organization right now.
Buster Posey not only ruined baseball. I say that all the time. I can't. He got taken out at home plate. It is what it is. And then they changed the rules. So in my mind, I just meme credit it to him. So Buster Posey, ruined baseball, ruined the Giants. Hope he enjoys it. Gave out a bunch of bad contracts, and they got to live with that. That's how it is.
I mean, if they were to let's see, what's this free agent 29? If they were trying to get off Logan Webb, they could get a haul. But I know he's come out and said he doesn't want to go anywhere. But also they've never had any intention of moving him. So it's just what are you guys trying to do here? They've
never had a big
direction.
They've never had a big reason to want to sell anybody. Like that, we've seen that for years. I forgot which year it was where they had a bullpen that I think everybody had a sub 2.5 ERA, and they were not in the hunt. And everybody's like, "You got to sell. You can completely replenish your farm system with getting rid of all these relievers," and they did none.
Even the year they had Bumgarner on a contract year, they didn't move.
They stuck around. So for some reason, the ownership up there and maybe
they're always trying to thread this needle with the two-way, rebuild / compete, and it's just the farm system's never been good enough for that. Your front office hasn't really ever been given free reign to do those kinds of things from ownership because they've had a good front office. When Farhan was there, that front office was doing things. And now you have a front office that like Zach Benazian is fine, but Buster Posey's pulling the strings, and it feels like he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
He's hanging, bro. He's hanging out. I don't know. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on. What did he say? What did he talk about? How he's just he's having conversations with people, sitting them down, get them to do these extensions and stuff. So, let me see here. I think, Vince, you just said there was some news that just happened. What was that?
Jack Harris says he hasn't seen Dalton Rushing and he doesn't have a locker tag. I don't think he's getting traded, but that might mean he's not going to be in Chicago. I don't know if Ben Rortvedt's on the way. They said there was going to be somebody on the catcher taxi. They don't have anyone else on the 40-man at the moment. So if it is Ben or somebody else, I think a 40-man opened up technically with the Bubic trade because he's on the 60-day. So it might just be some slight maneuvering for this series here.
Yeah, could be some moves there. So we'll see what goes on. That's a definitely interesting thing. We'll put a note in that. Yeah.
Boy, if they didn't make the trade for Big Ben, they would be in a world of hurt right now, it feels like.
Yeah. Shelly, we'll see. We're waiting on that news here. We might get something, I would say closer to game time. We'll see what goes on. But hey, it just feeds the narrative, man. Big Ben Rortvedt back to save the franchise once again.
If a guy doesn't make a trip like that, it's troubling.
Yeah, it's worth noting. It's definitely worth noting. Yeah, here we go. It says admin goes, remember Rushing's army rotation was minor. That's what they said. So it's worth noting. They're going to look into this. We'll see. We will know more. We'll know more as it gets closer to game time. Ryan says we all knew it wasn't minor. Yeah, no doubt. No, they would, Shelly. They wouldn't trade Rushing. That's not the thing. They definitely wouldn't trade Dalton Rushing, considering where they're at with Will Smith and stuff. This is purely medical. Has everything to do with medical here. David, chill out. He says Rushing Emmet and Freeland for Gunner. Even chill. We're not there yet.
TK's gonna catch.
Yeah, Kike is going to catch in a pinch and go from there. Who's the emergency one? Isn't it Alex Call?
Yeah, I think it's Alex Call now.
Well, Alex Call won't be a Dodger once his trade deadline is up, so that's the move there. We are still waiting. We're hoping to get Bruce Kuntz to join us at some point during this show, but we're standing pat. We're waiting to see if the Dodgers do make a prospect move, like was talked about early on, weeks ago. Floated around that they're going to deal some of their prospects to, replenish some other area. We saw them get rid of, Zaire Hope River Ryan. So we'll see what they do there, how they do it, if they just do some slight maneuvering. And I think that's a move that would come after they get the bulk of their work done. So they know exactly, okay, we could do some shifting here. If they do it, maybe they don't. Maybe they save it for the offseason, but that move still could come here.
Foster Griffin to the Guardians.
Foster Griffin of the Guardians. Yeah, that's Nationals lefty. Yeah, all-star Foster Griffin of the Guardians. That just came out. Mark Feinsand. So there's a lot of movement, boys. There's definitely a lot of movement around Major League Baseball with trades here. There's a ton, way more than I thought. If it wasn't Dodger stuff, if the Dodgers were still waiting on that big piece, I'd be getting nervous. All these names floating around, but it feels like for the first time in some years, you sit back and look at the rest of the league with less than 30 minutes to the deadline. I still have a question. Is Eric Lauer, is he getting moved here? Has anything changed for you guys in the last 24, 48 hours that would make you move off of that? Anthony, I'll start with you, man.
I expected him to be traded like 48 hours ago. I don't think you can keep running Sheehan out there right now, though. And so that gives me pause on Eric Lauer. Like, if they can get something for him, you move him for sure. And you just, you ride Sheehan until he's out of the rotation once Snell and Skubal are fully integrated. But I think right now, like, if they can't get a lottery ticket for him, I think they might just keep him.
Vince,
go ahead. He may have actually more use for them than we thought, just a few days ago.
Yeah. Vince, anything to follow up on that with Eric Lauer?
Yeah, I've been in the camp of they're going to keep him. I didn't think he was going to get traded. This was before Skubal, but even after Skubal, I still in that boat just because, he's an arm that you don't have to worry about. He's a guy that you can say, hey, we need 100 pitches out of an arm today. Eric Lauer, give everybody an extra day off if the rotation's already full, and go out there and give us 6+ innings or whatever you can give us, and not have to worry about it because he is not going to be, or he won't be. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year, so he's not somebody that they really have to watch. He's not a young guy that they really have to watch and be careful of. They can kind of put him out there in different situations. He's been in different situations between starter and reliever. Whether it is a bridge, whether when Ohtani comes back, they might need piggyback guy, and he could be a guy that fills that role. Like Ohtani throws 1-2 innings, whatever it is, and then Lauer kind of gets in after that. So I think he's a valuable arm in that sense of they don't have ties to him, and it might be a little bit of a disservice to him if at some point everybody is healthy and he's kind of in a weird spot or limbo, or he doesn't have a postseason role. But as we've seen in the past, like you still need to have guys on the outside heading into it. A couple years ago, they lost Evan Phillips after the CS. Last year, they lost Alex Vesia after the CS. Like, there's still a chance for a guy to make an impact, even if he's not on the playoff roster in the earlier round. So I think he's just a strong, safe, comfortable arm to have that's played in a lot of different roles, that has veteran. He's a veteran of the game, and I think it makes more sense to just keep him. But, hey, if somebody offers you something that you really like or you really love, then, they'll probably end up sending them out.
Opportunistic. Yeah, GI says they have 16 games in 17 days. Don't think they can afford to deal Lauer with Snell still on the IL. Yeah, Snell is still expected.
They just added Skubal, so that's one spot.
Yep.
And if you Snell could be back as early as this weekend, maybe. I think they said they maybe want to get him one more start.
One more rehab outing. Yeah.
So that'll come pretty soon in the next couple of days or so. So yeah, I mean, I would say by the beginning of next week, he's probably back. So, you get through this week and I think you're okay. They probably got to run Sheehan out there one more time. If he is the guy who gets knocked out of the rotation with all this, but Yeah, I'm in the camp now that if you can't get a lottery ticket for Lauer, you can keep him.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't get what you would like, I mean, it's. I think right now, do you think the output that he's providing is better than what they originally thought? Because you always have to try to, get something back for him. But what we're seeing from Eric Lauer is that he's been doing so well that I don't know if the Dodgers can simply move him just to do it because they're getting enough out of him. They're getting the production. They're getting exactly, I would say, too much for them to just toss him away for maybe if some team wants to give him a solid dart throw with some metrics that they like, that's good stuff. But I think he's providing enough right now where if you consider keeping him.
I think he even said that indirectly with when they first made the deal for him, they first traded for him. And they kind of mentioned it might be a little bit of a rental situation. He might not last. And then, he said, I haven't really heard that in the last couple of weeks. And I think the Dodgers would have been transparent with him if that was something that, was on the table. So I think he pitched himself into a role with the team moving forward into, pretty comfortable space, like you said, with seeing some of the prices and seeing what rentals, I just don't think that value is out there to where, you give up somebody that can be helpful during the regular season, could be helpful in a postseason, and could just be helpful being around and being there. And he threw some big innings for the Blue Jays last year in the World Series. Like he has World Series experience as late as last year, as early as last year. So there's a lot to like with him. I think he's going to stay, and I think that's the right.
How about his former teammate Jeff Hoffman going to Minnesota? What a rough few months for that guy.
Yeah, just gets traded there. Just saw that trade go through. Jeff passing. Yeah, Minnesota Twins are acquiring reliever Jeff Hoffman with the Toronto Blue Jays. Man, just a whole weird saga going on with them there. Hold on one sec.
Dodgers broke the Blue Jays. Miguel Rojas broke the Blue Jays.
He broke that organization, man.
Anthony, I'm going to have you take 1 sec. I got to fix some audio thing here real fast, man.
Yeah. All good. Vince, so with Lauer, you get Skubal in the rotation. Snell comes back. So that gives them...
That pushes one guy. Because Ohtani, they're down to 5.
They're down 5 with Skubal in the rotation or with Snell?
No, with... Oh, well, they're 6, with Skubal, yeah.
So when Snell comes back next week, they're back at 6 guys.
Yeah.
Figuring out how to maneuver then is going to be interesting. Like they can option Sheehan. Lauer, they're not going to sneak him through waivers. Someone will pick him up. And so I'm just curious with that in mind, how do they handle it? Do they just say, you know what, can you be a reliever for a while?
Yeah, in Miami, they have with options. It's Hurt has options that's currently on the roster. There's Sheehan. I think Robleski technically, if they really are worried about his workload, they could send him down, miss a start.
Yeah, they're not operating like they are anymore. It was one start where they removed him early and they
and then he threw 102 pitches the next one. Yeah, but I think there's Phantom IO. They've used that a lot. I don't think that's really something they want to do, but it's possible. Jack Dreyer probably, I would assume, still has options. Enriquez, I would imagine, still has option. So there's different things they can do to kind of move it around, and probably something they want to do anyways, just because, like I mentioned, with Will Klein, I talked about this with one of the other relievers, I forget who, of just not that they've thrown more innings than ever, but they've thrown more high stress innings. Will Klein's been in a lot of late inning games, that he's probably not used to. That's probably a little bit more tiresome than, throwing in the 5th, 6th inning and being up and down in the minors. So they're creating a pitching staff. I think they'll just kind of similar to teams that don't have a full-time DH and kind of move guys around. That's kind of what they'll do with either optioning or, maybe an IL stint here and there and just kind of move guys around and fix it that way. And, they have enough and they don't really have it because we've seen they don't really have a lot in the minors to kind of come up. There's nobody knocking on the door. Cole Irvin came up and got DFA'd the day after. That was the one guy that they were holding onto that chip for a while when they needed him. because they knew they were really only going to get them one time to use
Yeah.
before they kind of had to rotate them around. So I think that's what they'd have to do, is just find a way of figuring out rotation, and they've done it before. I mean,
I don't think the difficulty would be finding a way to get Lauer to the pin. It would just be like, okay, is that what we're going to do here with this guy?
Yeah. Like I said, I probably for now, maybe they start transitioning guys here. Maybe not in August. Maybe when we get into September, like maybe they want to try, Roki in more short bursts, because that's what he's going to do in October. Or they want to try Robleski in more short bursts, and then Lauer kind of becomes the guy that comes in after them or before them or whatever it is. So there's probably a lot that they want to test and try out, and hope for the health. We still haven't seen the health, so until then it's going to be just us kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. Like, oh yeah, now they have everybody. Now what are they going to do?
Right, yeah. Lars Nootbaar is on Hug Watch.
Lars Nootbaar is on Hug Watch, man.
A guy who was previously linked to the Boys in Blue.
Yeah. Our guy Fabian Ardaya tweeted out that Chucky Robinson and Jonathan Hernandez are in the clubhouse. So that we have kind of a word on what's going on with Dalton Rushing there. If Dalton Rushing doesn't have a locker, you're going to see Chucky Robinson and Jonathan Hernandez. One of the two there. So we'll see what goes on. But at least you have some chat. You have some resolution to what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm sure Rortvedt would be back soon. It's probably just he's in transit, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, veteran guy. They're probably giving him time to settle everything before he kind of decide what they're going to do.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Mr. Classic says Ben Rortvedt will be our last insurance for catcher. Yeah. I mean, Jonathan Hernandez. Let's see here. Yeah, we've seen it. GI said, let's see here. Yeah, Bubic was an interesting pickup. Could work as a swingman if he's healthy. I definitely agree with that. Like I said earlier in the show, he's throwing up to, I think it's 80 feet now. Definitely interesting pickup. Been good this year when healthy. But we'll see when he can find his way back and how they want to utilize that. But it's a buy low, gave up nothing, go ahead there. So it's a solid move for them. We're about 15 minutes away from this trade deadline. We're here. Everybody, thank you for tuning to Dodger Heads, presented by DodgerBlue.com website and podcast. I'm gonna toss this in here real quick while we've got a little break in the action before we get to this 10-minute warning. Please, quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. You play $5. This is for new users. You play $5, you get $150 in bonus lineups if you win that lineup. It's a great way to get in on the action, play more or less on statistical categories, check out game matchups. You can find something for you on there. It's just a great way to follow it. It's a do-all app, so make sure you check out the Prize Pick app as well. They got live score updates, everything. Shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. You use code HMA for first-time users. You play $5, you get $150 in bonus lineups if you win that lineup. Tell them Dodger Blue sent you. Use code HMA. Thank you. But yeah, we're about 15 minutes with some extra time there. Stuff starts to trickle in. I don't know, boys. I kind of miss. I'm glad they got the heavy lifting and that move done early on, but I like those buzzer beater moves. We're sitting here waiting for the last thing. I'm not going to have some John Boy type of reaction where I'm jumping up on the chair, doing anything like that. But it's definitely. You say what?
You're not going to aura farm?
Not going to aura farm, mogged camera. I'm not going to, do any of that. But I mean, that's a little bit out of my. Maybe later. Maybe if they come up with some, like I said, some CJ Abrams stuff. If Friedman wants to do that, I'll be on all night. I'll call. We'll be here. We'll be here all night. But yeah, John Boy needs to relax. I mean, no. Who did just trade? Who was that? Who's the reliever they just gave up again? They just got rid of Neil Duvall. Yeah, nothing with Duvall. But I don't think Dodgers doing anything crazy like that.
Yeah, what was you Dodgers was like 15, 20 minutes after the deadline. I remember that one because I was at Raiders training camp actually, and you couldn't be on your phone, so I had to keep sneaking peeks at my phone out of my pocket. And then right when it ended is when Darvish happened, and yeah, those are fun. But yeah, having Skubal in pocket already is kind of
that's more fun.
Yeah.
John Heyman tweeted out 30 seconds ago, the Padres trying to land Nootbaar, Burleson, or Larnach to fill their lefty need. I'm telling you, boys, AJ Preller's doing it again. It's it's a gift that keeps on giving with AJ Preller. He can't
like
help himself.
knowing everything that we know about AJ Preller and like his just complete innate ability to not sell. How hard do you think it had to have been for him to deal Soto when they did? Because obviously that was a mandate. Like you have to trade him. Oh my God, that must have just pained him so bad.
Yeah, they got a negative run differential. I know they've won 8 of their last 10 games. Yeah, and they acquired Robbie Ray today. They're still trying to add more on there. I don't think if you don't go in like that, I don't know how you can like operate with that roster. It's just like if you don't like, what do you do? Just stand pat? You're not going to do anything. I get what Preller's doing, but it's just so funny to watch. They just have the Xander Bogaerts thing. I just circle every time and just laugh, man. I just laugh. It's just one of the worst contracts I've absolutely ever seen.
I mean, like they don't really have anybody of like any value that anybody would want unless they put Jackson Merrill out there. But then also your package for him is not going to be great because one, his production, but also then you're attaching the 9-figure contract to it.
Yeah.
This is why we're in like the position too with all the labor stuff, is because the other teams that do spend are not spending well. So then, the Dodgers look like the anomaly. Yeah, like the Mets are bad. The Giants have $300 million contracts. Like they're bad. The Padres Padres had their shot. And honestly, the Padres are a good one because, maybe not now. Like they finally, it's died down a little, but they were filling out Petco for a while. It looked like, that's something you'd want to see as an owner of a team, like a kind of reinvigorate a city a little bit. But then all the other teams just don't do it right, and they don't have like the complete system to try to fix around it. I mean, the Dodgers, you could be telling the same thing about the Dodgers with Tucker and some of these other guys, but the fact that it hasn't deterred them at all, really.
I think the underrated part of this Dodger front office too is. I'm basically repeating some of what Vince is saying, but like how you spend your money, right?
Big Arizona Diamondbacks, Lars Nootbaar. Big Arizona Diamondbacks. Jorge Castillo. Yeah, Diamondbacks are acquiring Lars Nootbaar from the Arizona or the St. Louis Cardinals. Man, all right, there it is.
But you look at like, and I'm not just talking about teams who spend and do it poorly, right? Like you talk about the Giants, but like you take a GM who's had a good run in a small market organization like the Brewers and David Stern, and then you give him all the money and you go, okay, recreate that magic, but now it should be easier because you got money in your pocket. And he continues to F it up. I think you look at a guy like Friedman who came from the same kind of situation into the Dodgers, and he's not effing it up. He's doing the exact opposite. And the trades are shrewd. The signings are smart. They've been very strategic with who they've given out the longer term deals to. And then once the window got just, they took the door off the hinges and they said, okay, now everyone's in play. Like we are going to hit you guys like a Mack truck now.
Mm-hmm.
And that there is such a different strategic approach to how they've gone about doing this than a team like the Mets or obviously the Giants, even teams like the Yankees or the Red Sox, or right. Like it's so different. I don't think they get enough credit for how they've gone about this. Like half the league has money. Like the Dodgers ownership group is not the richest ownership group in baseball, but they've got the right people in place and they stay out of the way. That's another big thing, right? Like Artie doesn't. And so, you're able to let your baseball people make baseball moves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a job that everybody can do. And we're watching it in real time in New York. You take a really smart, highly regarded GM, Pobo, put him in a seat and give him an open checkbook to the point that that baseball creates a rule to stop you from spending, and you cannot make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's definitely, I hear what you're saying there. Definitely. And Anthony, I know you got to head out here in a few. I want to get your final stuff here with this trade deadline before we, let you head yourself on out of here. Dodgers making any final stuff? Do you think they've got the tools to go ahead and forge on with this current group here?
Again, Alex Call could be on the move, I think, but beyond that, I don't think it's anything significant. Like I don't think at this point Eric Lauer's moving. So yeah, I think they're mostly done. Maybe a couple of minor league deals, but beyond that, I think we're looking at this team that we're going to have for the next 3 months.
Right on, Vince. Appreciate you, man. How you doing? You hanging out over there?
Yeah, we're good, man. I'm used to working the trade deadline and being a little bit more fast-paced lifestyle, so this is perfect. This is great.
Yeah, checking out. We're still waiting to see what we've got here. I'm gonna check to see if there's anything rolling through with the trade deadline. Bruce, give me a thumbs up if you're good for me to bring you on backstage. You all right? Cool. Let's bring it in. I'm gonna bring in our guy Bruce Coons. Let's get a little 4-boxer here. We haven't had this.
All right, boys. I'll get out of here.
Anthony, appreciate you, big man. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
Keep it moving.
All righty. Cool. Bruce, it's great to see you, buddy. How's it going?
Sir.
How we hanging?
Just been on Twitter more than I want to be today, but following through everything. And the Dodgers haven't done too much. Getting Ben Rortvedt back is nice. And acquiring Kris Bubic, I really like that trade. Pretty much
100%.
Didn't cost anything. Carlos Duran has had a good year in AAA. It's a slider that is really, really, really good, but his fastball has never been able to live up to where the slider is at. So I think that if he was going to appear for the Dodgers this year, it would have been as a brief call-up and then get sent right back down. So that wasn't going to be a role that they couldn't fill by somebody else. And I think Bubic is a great potential upside sort of play. If they can get him healthy and if he's at the top of his game, then Bubic is for sure going to be one of the top 13 guys on the staff to be on the playoff roster.
What do you make of this right now? So, like we talked a little bit ago before we hopped in about the Dodgers have had buzzer beater moves, and this year they got their heavy lifting done with room to spare. So you can settle in, on a Sunday. You can settle in today and read the market, read where everything is at. There's been some talk about a bat, and I think that's more hopeful stuff. What would Bruce like to see? And as we're going up here toward the end of this deadline here, something feasible, or is it just you think there's not enough time? Is this is this prospect territory?
Yeah, I'm not expecting anything else for the big league roster. That would surprise me. There's never anything impossible, but that would surprise me. I think that getting Skubal done yesterday, having Bubic done this morning, kind of seemed like the Dodgers were going to be able to shift their focus towards if they wanted to trade somebody away instead of searching after the guys they want to acquire. So I still am thinking that there's a decent chance that somebody gets moved, if it's Alex Call, if it's Eric Lauer, if it's one of the AAA outfielders ahead of the deadline, or that news could trickle in right after it. Would surprise me a little bit if none of those things happen and the Dodgers aren't able to move any of those guys. Just because there is a lot of depth stacked up. And especially in Lauer's case, I think that obviously you can make the argument that keeping him as an insurance policy for the depth of the starting rotation and to just get to the finish line could be helpful. But I think with the prices that have been going around today for even rental starting pitchers, how good he's been since he got to the Dodgers, I feel like it would make sense to move him. But that's a tough thing to calculate without knowing exactly what the markets are behind the scenes and how much time the Dodgers have been able to invest in those seller ideas that they've had rather than going after the guys that they want to acquire first.
I know I'm rapid firing you with everything so far. I'm just eager to have you, big man. This is what I've been pestering you about for a month, for over a month. But quick shout out to everybody in chat. Thank you. Awesome turnout across all social medias. Everybody, you're the best. Best way to get a hold of us is Super Chat. If you're watching, via Twitter, make sure you hop over on YouTube if you want to toss in there something to support the stream. We appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, as always, thank you. Same stuff there. If you have some comment, question, concern, some thing of optimism you want to see done, toss that in there. We'll stop what we're doing. Any Super Chat directly affects the channel, helps out the channel, myself, Bruce, Vince, the rest of the staff. Thank you. Chrono says, Bruce, with that large cup of water. But Bruce, I want to ask you this, man. Of all the moves that were made today, which one either surprised you? Did you like the return for one side or the other? Who do you think got fleeced? Who do you think right now got fleeced?
the two that stood out to me were the big one is Adley Rutschman going to the Red Sox. I thought that they gave up quite a bit there. Adley, I think there's a lot of name value there. I'm not sure if the current player that he is and the injury concern lives up to the name value that he has. I think the Red Sox will need to try and get an extension then for that to feel worth it, because the year and a half that they traded for and the fact that he's currently on the injured list, that seemed like a pretty big price to pay. The other one is the Brewers trading for Dustin May and Jojo Romero. They gave back two outfielders, minor league guys that are very intriguing, and two guys that are like big trend up sort of guys this year. One of them was already ranked, I think, 43rd on Fangraphs midseason top 100, and the other guy was breaking his way into the top 100 too. So that was a pretty steep price for May as a free agent at the end of the year, and so is Romero. I don't necessarily want to say that it's a bad trade, because the Brewers are a team that you want to trust that they clearly see Dustin May and think that he can be an impact guy for them. His FIP has been really good this year. The ERA has been behind it, but I think Dustin May could be a real contributor for them. But that was definitely a steep price for two guys that are going to be free agents at the end of the year and are definitely not, bona fide stars that you're adding to the playoff run.
Man, Jeff Passan has put out a bunch of stuff here in the final few minutes. Yeah, Mark Feinsand puts out Guardians just got Nathaniel Lauer from the Reds, and I think another Miami Marlins got Victor Vodnik from the Colorado Rockies. So a lot of moves that like you could see, you could look at like this like top stuff. Vince, what are you grinning at over there, brother?
So what are the Marlins and Rockies doing? Like everybody else is doing to try to win, and then we got Victor Vodnik and Connor Norby getting traded for each other.
Staying within their bubble, man. Staying within their bubble. Like I saw some people wanting to get Otto Lopez, but Otto Lopez is a stud. That's a guy you like. It's either like a cornerstone piece for your team that you like say, we're going to keep him here and forge on with. Bruce, I know you have a lot to say about this stuff too. Some teams at some point, you have to have some pieces that you keep in place to move on with. Just because you're not winning and not, where you'd like to be doesn't mean you can just ship everybody out all the time because you're losing. Guys got team control. Guys have very controllable contracts and a runway to play, to get better. That's what the Rockies are doing essentially with like five guys on their starting lineup right now. So they don't always have to deal. People are like, oh, go trade for their young talent. Teams don't always have to do that type of stuff and just gut it every single year if you're not winning.
When you're trending up as a franchise, it's really hard to trade the guys that you've identified as building blocks that have multiple years of control, because at that point, all the building that you've done to get those guys where they are in the first place when things were worse than they are now for your franchise, you're just undoing all that work and starting it over from scratch. So, yeah, I think Otto Lopez has been great for the Marlins this year. There was a time not that long ago that we were talking about the Marlins as a real sleeper, one of the top playoff contenders in all of baseball, and then they went on a huge cold streak, but that would have been silly for them to immediately then turn and sell the entire roster. So I'm not surprised that he hasn't moved. A lot of what's gone on today has kind of been according to the expectation. There haven't been very many true sellers, but teams like the Giants, I think, have done a decent job. They've made some trades. The Angels have shipped off a couple of guys. So I wouldn't say there's been anything that's totally shocking about what's gone down so far today.
Yeah, Connor Norby and Aid May going to the Colorado Rockies there from the Marlins. So, I mean, said Marlins selling their whole roster? No way. Yeah, we'll see, man.
It's 3 o'clock.
It's 3 o'clock. Pencils down. But this is whenever stuff starts to trickle in. Anything surprising to you? Like, if they Dodgers hold on to Alex Call, are you going to be surprised? Quick answer. Yes, no?
Yes, I thought that there was enough chatter behind the scenes and with the team control that he has, I thought it made a lot of sense to move him because the Dodgers just don't need him and they don't have a place for him to play. And if things went really south and all of a sudden there was a spot in the outfield, I really don't think Alex Call would be their first preference to be the guy who steps up and all of a sudden gets more playing time. I would think that they would experiment with other things in-house before they went to that. So I think the biggest answer is I'd be surprised if both Call and Ryan Ward are still in the organization and they didn't trade either of those guys.
Casey Mize to Padres.
Casey Mize to the San Diego Padres and Big Kirby Yates to the Pittsburgh Pirates, just getting every single reliever known to man. That's Casey Mize to the Padres, though. Casey Mize to the Padres. He just can't help himself. AJ Preller is doing the thing. He loves it, man. This is it.
Mize and Robbie Ray both today. That's two pretty decent
nice little get.
Pitching acquisitions.
Dodgers are acquiring Hunter Feduccia from the Rays. Jorge Castillo. Wow. All right. Somebody in our chat had Hunter Feduccia. We saw that. Was it GI or TQT? Somebody said Hunter Feduccia. That is a thing. All right, here we go, man. That's a banner I didn't think I would be making. Dodgers acquire Hunter Feduccia from the Rays. That's the return, just the return of Ben Rortvedt and the return of Hunter Feduccia.
You didn't have to do any jersey swaps.
I like that a lot.
Somebody make the Photoshop immediately, please.
One of the things that you talk about a lot when you're talking about acquiring catchers mid-season is how difficult it is to bring a brand new guy into your clubhouse, to learn all the pitchers from scratch, to learn the operation from scratch. And the two catchers the Dodgers have acquired today are both guys they've had already. So you see that clearly was a priority.
Next question we've got to ask. We definitely have Mike. What's up, buddy? It's good to see you in chat. Stick around. Good conversation coming up in the next, I would say 20, 25 minutes. For the both of you, Dodgers acquire Hunter Feduccia from the Rays. What does this say about, Dalton Rushing? What does this say about Will Smith? I know we started seeing Will Smith start to ramp up a slight bit. What does this say for you, Vince, about Dalton Rushing, perhaps where he's at?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's more of a Rushing is maybe going to the IL than a Will Smith had a setback, just because obviously you want Will Smith back out there, and rushing to the IL doesn't necessarily mean anything about season being over. We haven't even heard anything yet. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this probably tells me Rushing not traveling, the fact that they had two catchers and they traded for two catchers sent to Chicago to be with the team. They traded for two catchers today. Makes me seem like Rushing is probably going to go on the injured list and might miss more than the 10 days. The Dodgers just wanted to make sure that they had enough guys to kind of cover it, and guys that are, maybe better than some of these guys. Chucky Robinson, no offense to him, but, the Hunter Feduccia been a major league caliber player for a couple of years now. Ben Rortvedt's been a major league caliber player before. And like you said, the familiarity with the pitch, at least some of the pitching staff, or at least the Dodgers system of how they handle pitchers. I think you want to cover all your bases. They've done this before. They traded for Emmet Rosario a few years ago, and then they didn't end up keeping him because I forget who at the time was injured, but they came back and they were healthy. So, you make moves to cover what you need to, and that's what the Dodgers are doing.
Yeah, Hunter Feduccia is basically a wash versus left-handed pitching. I know he still has, I think, one option left. Yeah, so he's a guy. You say one?
Yeah, just one option left. So
one option left, so you can stash him. What do you think the plan is for Hunter Feduccia here?
This is the Dodgers having had a couple of months here to look at their two third catcher options that they had in the organization in spring training. Chucky Robinson got some run, Eliezer Alfonso got some run, and the Dodgers clearly have decided neither of those guys are players that they want anywhere near the postseason. So getting Rortvedt this morning, he's not on the 40-man roster yet. He can be in AAA, ready to be called on whenever they desire they need it. And then for Hunter Feduccia, if Rushing is going on the IL now, or even if he's not, having the option there means that now the Dodgers have two different catchers that they would be okay with being backups in the postseason. Whereas when we woke up this morning, they had zero. So that's good work. And especially for it to be Chase McDermott was who they traded for Rortvedt this morning, guy they had already DFA'd. And now I'm waiting to see if it's just Jack Sawinski that's gone back to the Rays. Same kind of thing of he wasn't even on the 40-man roster, has been good in AAA this year, but another guy that was not going to be the first one up for the Dodgers.
Feels a need.
A left-handed hitting outfielder. So shoring up the backup catcher situation with two guys the organization is already very familiar with, and not actually trading a prospect is, I would say, pretty good work. If that's all it's going to be for Feduccia.
Yeah, I would say so. That's very good work there. And the fact that you said the familiarity thing, they can handle the staff. This is well done. They attacked the need, definitely insurance for the both of them, the catching slot. But Mike, stick around. Shelly, I know we had questions about outfielder there, backup outfielder, fourth outfielder, the Alex Call spot. We'll talk about that here in just a second. Vince, thoughts, walk me through where you're at with Hunter Feduccia. How do you think they're going to implement him And this was purely an insurance move. Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume that's what it is. And I guess we'll see. We'll find out here shortly from Roberts about Rushing and kind of why they moved 2 catchers and acquired 2 catchers. But yeah, kind of Bruce hit it on the head. Like, you needed to. There's no one in the farm system that was going to be able to come up and save you. You can't make any more trades after today. So if there was worst case scenario of Smith suffers a setback, Rushing's injury becomes something, as good as the Dodgers are, and they could still win a World Series with, Eliezer Alfonso as your starting catcher, but it makes it a little bit more difficult than it did, with somebody else, and makes it, Ben Rortvedt, again, last year had that success, however you want to call it, with the Dodgers, became a fan favorite. Hunter Feduccia has been in the majors before. It's solid, and, they still don't have, the long-term depth. Doesn't look like any. They weren't able to make trades with some of their outfield guys to turn them into maybe prospects at other positions. But at the very least, the 2026 team is now covered. So.
Yeah, Hunter Feduccia on the season right now in 60 games, 160 plate appearances, 82 WRC plus here / looking 234 average, 306 OBP, 340 slug. So he's not providing you anything on the thump. This is if people are hearing Hunter Feduccia and you have some hope that he's going to be an offensive upside or something there, you're not going to find better than what you have with Dalton Rushing or when Will Smith is healthy. The only positive with Hunter Feduccia is he's a big league catcher. He has done it for a couple years now. Bruce, you have something on your mind?
Yes, Feduccia coming all the way up through the Dodger system was a guy that the Dodger prospects all loved throwing to. He's really good as a manager of the pitching staff. And like I already talked about, he has so much familiarity with any of the guys that came up through the system because he was in AAA for like 4 years for the Dodgers. So he saw a few different classes of prospects moving through and caught a lot of them. So there's going to be familiarity there. And that was his main attribute was he was a guy that the pitchers wanted to throw to and worked really well with the staff. So you're acquiring the defensive catcher there for Feduccia. And I think the 82 weighted runs created plus obviously isn't good. He's not an offense first catcher, but I still wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers feel, they'd feel better about him having an at bat than, no shade, but Chucky Robinson was pretty rough when he was up here, and it's not going to be worse than that.
That's okay. What is this? Does this trade spell anything for anything on the AAA front as far as playing time for anybody? Does anybody get a call up here because of this? Does this do anything? Does this do anything for
AAA outfielders? So I think Sawinski was one of the guys that was in the way. It sounds like, at least for now, Ryan Ward and James Tibbs are both in the org, but both those guys can play first base. So they needed to move AAA depth in the outfield, and they did that. I thought they were going to do more than one guy because I think DePaula and Sirota both should be in AAA before the end of the year. But at least moving one definitely means I think DePaula is going to be up soon.
Yeah, Bruce, I'm going to let you keep scouring the Twitter feed there, what you got rolling. Vince, I think that this definitely, like Bruce said, this clears up some of the log jam of outfielders at the AAA level. And for a guy like Jack Sawinski, it's someone who has stuck around with the Dodgers organization in AAA. Right now, you're able to flip him for a need that you did need. You did need catcher depth. You did need somebody to get some familiarity in here. And a buy low guy and Jack Sawinski nets you somebody that's a useful piece here. All right, Mike, I'm going to address this real fast. I know you're hurting, buddy. Why are you dying, man? Why are you dying? Why are you, is it the outfielder stuff? I know he just says, I'm going to let him crash out on screen for a minute. It was Bobby Miller and Ryan Ward still on this roster. Why? There's a lot to unpack with everything. You saying they needed an extra outfielder. Vince, how surprised are you that they haven't moved Alex Call? How surprised are you that they haven't, found a deal to do some shuffling on that front?
Hey, Scott, can I throw something in real quick?
Yeah,
Sorry
please.
to cut you guys off. The Dodgers are getting a prospect too. Jorge Castillo says Jacob Kamatz, who Fangraphs has as the Rays number 16 prospect. They have plus fastball, plus slider, double plus curveball. 23-year-old in Double-A has 10.5 strikeouts per 9, 1.5 walks per 9 this year.
How'd they do this again? How do you continue to get more prospects? The Dodgers did give up some international bonus pool money, so credit to Jorge Castillo there. They gave up Jack Sawinski and international bonus pool money going to the Tampa Bay Rays. Full trade is Hunter Feduccia and right-hander Jacob Kamatz going to the Dodgers, like I said, for Jack Sawinski, outfielder Jack Sawinski, and international bonus pool money. I mean, how do they keep doing this stuff here? I'll have Bruce pull up more about Jacob Kamatz so we get the full stuff with him there. But Vince, back to what we were talking about the outfielders and Alex Call.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they probably were maybe trying to find one of those other bats out there to maybe get into it. I talked about this before of just like with the DH, with the way the Dodgers don't really have platoons anymore, for the most part, that they don't really need a lot on the bench in terms of they don't need a guy that can, play. They need defensive versatility, which is what they already have. They need a backup catcher, and then they could just use like a random bat. And I mentioned like I wish there was a David Freese type like this year where you don't really expect anything other than him to maybe get one at bat a game.
I like that
in a big situation and just hope that he's going to come through. I think they were maybe trying to find something like that. There wasn't a lot out there. There wasn't a lot of offense out there in general. If it wasn't maybe more starting caliber. So maybe that's why they kept Call. They just wanted to, have that somebody in their back pocket. I do, had Call been sent out, maybe they got somebody, prospect wise or whatever was back. Maybe we do see Ryan Ward come back up, or maybe we do see one of, the other top outfielder guys that are a little bit more close to major leagues, like a Sirota, and we still could see Mike Schroeder. We still could see maybe a James Tibbs, maybe get a little bit, but the only bad part is like, there's no extended run to give them in terms of consistent at bats. But maybe you think like, hey, 1 month, maybe we're sitting here in a month from now and say, you know what, let's see it. There used to be the 40-man expansion, which gave a lot of these guys chances. We don't really have that anymore. We get a little bit of that expansion. Maybe that's what happens. Maybe they try to catch lightning in a bottle with one of those guys. But ultimately not surprised when you are the Dodgers, just because now look, like they had 2 catchers a couple months ago. They had 1 catcher today, and then they had no catchers for a little bit. Maybe the same thing could happen here in the outfield. And even though Call isn't necessarily the guy to be the starter, if somebody got hurt long term, you still need somebody to kind of sit back there and be in the position that he's in.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Plus, he hasn't hit in a while. Yeah. Earlier this year, Call would have maybe for sure got a trade.
Yeah, it's to where the Dodgers offense is currently at. They just get swept by the Boston Red Sox at home. The outfield as a unit, Andy Paz has had his big time up and downs this year. Teoscar Hernandez has had some moments, but overall, it's not been great. Kyle Tucker, overall, big letdown. Kike Hernandez still getting his feet wet there. He had that little 2-game stretch there before he got hurt, and he's come back. He's just got to get his feet wet. I mean, Tommy Edman's not going to slide into the outfield a bunch. Like, we're going to see him at second base there. I mean, it's the Bruce, you and I have talked on live shows about this a considerable amount. You don't have to chime in. You can keep doing what you're doing. I'm just yapping.
I'm mostly listening to you.
Yeah, you're good, brother. You're good. But it's that the production of the outfield has not been enough. You're not getting as much you're getting a lot from Shohei, but you're not getting as much from Shohei Ohtani. Mookie Betts has not been as great. Freddie Freeman has been good stuff. Max Muncy's been incredible. So he's been awesome. Tommy Edman, awesome. And then Dalton Rushing, hurt. Will Smith, hurt. There are some moving parts here. I think, Vince, it comes down to, do they have the slot to be able to bring someone else into the fold? You just really don't. You're not going to put Teoscar Hernandez in a platoon role or a bench role. It's not going to happen. Kyle Tucker, same thing. They lack the spots to do it. It feels like they understand that it's full steam ahead for what they currently have, and they're banking on guys to get right. But as it currently stands, I understand where the outrage comes from about the outfield and the lack of production there as an entire unit. Right, Vince?
Yeah, it's just tough because, as much as the Dodgers are thinking about winning, thinking about October, the one thing that they have done in the regular season at the least is stick with their guys, trust in their guys, think that their guys are going to, return to form. With Teo last year, it kind of worked out. Like, he didn't have a terrible year last year, but he didn't have the year that he had the year before. But there was the big moment in the Phillies, like that big home run off Matt Strahm, like that kind of spearheaded that series into what it was, and the Dodgers winning that series. Last year was Conforto, who was a lot easier to cut bait with and not put on the postseason roster just because he was going to be gone after the year ended. Kyle Tucker, I don't know if they have that. If there's a point where they get to that with Kyle Tucker, if they do call up maybe one of these younger guys, start giving them, sporadic at bats here and there, maybe a couple starts, every 6-7 days, whatever it is, and figure that part out of it and see, okay, like we have a little bit of a backup plan, a little bit of a contingent plan. If Kyle Tucker just doesn't become what the Dodgers expect and what it is. And, that's the only part of it with the offense is that if it doesn't work out, if somebody gets hurt, they don't have the depth there, or at least the strong, good depth that they have had in the past with maybe guys closer to the big leagues.
Yeah, Mike says Kyle Tucker should be traded at this rate. It's just it's too much money. You got to bank on what they've got and the overall production of the team, and somebody's got to click right. If you don't, are they in trouble? I'm not going to say they're in trouble. I'll never say like, oh, they're in trouble. I think they just have enough talent and enough, veteran stuff there, and they're savvy enough to figure, a lot of shit out.
Old friend Caleb Ferguson to the Reds or to the Cardinals
for some cash, right? I saw $250,000. Yeah, for some cash, just bought him. Bought him.
International cash.
Yeah, earning international cash. So I'm currently pulling up what like the Dodgers outfield unit has done like since the break, and I'm pulling up those splits right now. So I'm just trying to have the gentleman buy me some time here, and I'll pull that up. But let's see. One moment. Yeah, it hasn't been great. Hasn't been great at all since July 14th. Teoscar Hernandez, league average, 104 WRC plus, 103 for Andy Paz, and Kyle Tucker at 75. It's just not been great as a whole. The unit combined 4 home runs. In those, Andy Paz 15 games. So 15 games, 13 and 13 for Teoscar and Kyle Tucker. So the thump hasn't been there. What we're seeing with base running decisions stinks for Kyle Tucker. I don't know if he's not getting a good read on the ball. I don't know what he's doing. Andy Paz needs to get the hell out of the way when he's behind home plate. Need everybody to stop looking at him. There is definitely some frustration mixed in. Definitely feel overall Dodgers are in an incredible spot. You've got this division lead here. You've got a runway to continue to run it at a 3-peat title, but they've got stuff to figure out. I'm not going to paint it as it's always gold. Great trade deadline for them getting Tarik Skubal, but now you've got to have you have to bring in 2 backup catchers because Dalton Rushing is now hurt. Will Smith making his way back, but there are some things that the Dodgers do need to get right. What do you think so far? Do you think that's it, Bruce? Do you think that's all the Dodgers have going right here for this trade deadline?
It could be. I mean, now they've at least gotten rid of one AAA outfielder, so that part's done. I think that a big part of it for me with thinking about Colin Lauer, though, was not necessarily just freeing up the depth. That was a byproduct, but it seemed like there was a market to take advantage of with those 2 guys for players that are not really going to have a huge role for the Dodgers moving forward this year. To just get something meaningful for them, it seemed like. That's where if the Dodgers were really investigating and doing their diligence on the market, and all of a sudden the market for those 2 guys was like way lower than they thought, they might have just decided that they're more valuable to hold on to as depth and steady forces in the clubhouse and all those kind of things. So I guess we'll see. We're 20 minutes past, so there still could be things that trickle in, but we're getting close here.
It's flown by. This trade deadline flew by. There's just more. I would think it's just that we're not waiting for the big Dodgers move to come through. Vince, that feels like it's it, man. That feels like nothing else.
Yeah, 20 minutes, I think, is usually the time where I think, you don't really see much else beyond that, especially for the Dodgers. There might be something else for another team that comes in, but I think we're done here. And, it's kind of like what I said earlier in this show of this felt like if you just look at the deadline before Skubal or after Skubal, you think Bubic, you think the 2 catchers, you think like, dang, that that's really all they're going to do. But Skubal really does obviously flip this into a top tier deadline because that's a big game changer. That's a guy that can take it down a game for you in October and really shut it down. So you combine it with what they already have. It's exciting. It's fun. It's I've talked about this too. Not only do they get like players that are good, but they get most of the time you like maybe good players, and maybe sometimes you don't. They get guys that I just have generally liked, like but at the time. Maybe now after the Machado, I really liked them before, not so much after. Scherzer really liked them before, maybe not so much after. But Trey Turner's still a guy that I was fine with and I liked before, and I don't have a problem with them now. Your Darvish, he's got put into a weird situation, and in terms of everything that ended up happening and what we found out. But again, Tarik Skubal, the guy, he's a dog. He brings a different. I think edge mentality wise, that's a good one to bring into, just because he gets fired up, he gets into it, and there wasn't anything they missed out on, I don't think, because if you did want a bat, if you did want someone, you really look at all the bats that were traded and you think like, who? Like there wasn't anybody traded that I think made a huge like, oh man, the Dodgers should have done that. The best bat that got traded was maybe Garcia.
Yeah.
And then he plays first base and a little bit of second base. Like wasn't really somebody that made a ton of sense.
That is true. This was a pitching deadline. This was a pitching deadline. Bruce, are you surprised the lack of bats moving, or that's just like a premium thing you don't see move a lot?
Yeah, I think that it seemed like there were going to be more arms available. A lot of teams seem to be holding on to their bats, and other teams seem to not want to meet the prices for them. I think we kind of felt this just in looking around the league and the slight amount of speculation that was done from the Dodgers side of whether there's any bats the Dodgers could go get. There just aren't really that many options out there that, until you get to the CJ Abrams and like the super speculative ones that probably weren't going to move. So yeah, I think that it was definitely more slanted towards the pitchers. And that's why I thought the Dodgers had a good chance to move Alex Call, because there just weren't very many right-handed hitting outfielders available. And I thought that meant they could get a price back for him that would exceed the value that he's providing to the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm. Mike said he wanted Lane Thomas and JJ Bleday. Mike, we did this last year, bro. We talked about those exact names last year. And then we got Alex Call from the Nats. So Nats outfielders, and you get Alex Call, and then JJ Bleday we talked about then. Now he's with the Reds. I mean, it's just rinse repeat. Let's do this again. Let's do this again next year, Mike. Let's talk about come up with those same two if they're still doing their thing. I like that again. Hey,
have you talked about the return for Casey Mize yet?
We have not talked about the return for Casey Mize yet. I'd love for you to get into that. I have that on I have a window open here about it.
They gave up Cash Mayfield, who high draft pick just I think last year or 2 years ago. That's steep, and Jackson Wolf too. AJ Preller can't get out of his own way. Like there's just no trade deadline that he's not going to go and trade anything he has. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, he can't help himself there. 21-year-old, big lefty there, having a great year this year in, high A ball.
Yeah, I was interested in Mayfield a couple years ago. He was drafted. It was 2024. That was the year that the Dodgers took Kellen Lindsey, if I'm not scrambled, and Mayfield was right in that same range. If I'm remembering that right, then he went 2 picks after Lindsey. And so I was looking at Mayfield pretty hard through the whole pre-draft process, knowing he was going to be in that area. Didn't like when he went to the Padres. So trading him for Casey Mize now on a team that is still only maybe going to push for the playoffs is not the decision I would have made.
Mm-hmm. You said Reds want to haul for Bleday. We don't know, but Alex Call is definitely a noodle bat. He's definitely a noodle bat. Bruce, I've had a few people text me, and I saw some names that are in chat that have DM me. Is there any possibility we see a surprise call-up to help remedy this Dodgers outfield at the major league level?
Meaning like one of the top outfield prospects kind of thing?
Yes.
I doubt it. It would take an injury. I just don't see the guys from AA making it up to the majors this year. And I don't think that they would look at James Tibbs and I guess if you're counting Ryan Ward as one of the prospects, as guys that have any chance to replace Teoscar Hernandez. That's just not going to happen. So if there was a catastrophic injury and the Dodgers were wanting to take a risk, I doubt it. Maybe they could think about Sirota. He's 23, but I really don't think that's likely. And Josue DePaul is 21, and they're not going to rush him up. There's a factor too of AA uses a different baseball. It's part of why you just don't see guys jump up from AA very much, because you'd be not only making the jump of AA pitching to big league pitching, that's an insanely hard jump to make in one swoop, but you'd also be hitting with a completely different baseball. They use the MLB baseball in AAA though. So I think that's part of the urgency of Josue DePaul has no real reason to be in AA anymore. Freeing up the space to get him to AAA and see what he does there. I don't think they're going to be thinking about it, but crazier things have happened.
Some news from our friend, Fabian Ardaya at The Athletic. He says Dalton Rushing, the MRI showed a mild elbow strain, and he is headed to the injured list. We get the answer. We get the answer of kind of what's going on with Dalton Rushing there and that elbow and the irritation. It's now something that they went out, require Ben Rortvedt, bring him back, Hunter Feduccia today. Dalton Rushing and Will Smith, both Dodgers starting catchers and backup catcher at the beginning of the year, now both on the injured list. Vince, what are we thinking? This is definitely something that it's not cool. It's not great. The Dalton Rushing now lands himself on the IL. What do you make of this?
Yeah, not ideal, especially after the conversation we just had about the Dodgers offense kind of struggling a little bit. And, even with Rushing cooling down from his start to the season, he's still a pretty solid hitter and has a chance to change the game with one swing of the bat anytime he's at the plate. Even some of these guys that are going to fill in for them at their best, they're not necessarily home run power guys. So singles are fun, but Rushing has a chance to change the game. Will Smith, we haven't heard any setbacks. At the very least, that's good, but it's still, he's gonna have to go out on rehab assignment. It's gonna take a little while to get him back up. So I guess for now, if it is really just mild and it's really just a rest thing, which we'll kind of see here from Twitter doctors, I would imagine in the next few minutes. But it makes a lot of sense why, and kind of exactly what we talked about, why they ended up going out and getting extra catchers, just because, they probably thought or knew this was already, well, they did already know that this was going to be the case with Rushing. So, yeah, this sucks. It sucks because, Rushing sucks for Rushing too. Like, he has this extended look at being a starting catcher. And, he had ups and downs that aren't necessarily just tied to his actual play, but other stuff, that's gone on. And, now he's on the IL. Dodgers are scrambled a little bit, but, you can do a lot worse when you're in scramble mode than two guys that have been in the organization and two guys that your pitchers have some trust in. So.
Yeah. Bruce, anything to add here about Dalton Rushing and what's kind of ahead for him?
Yeah, I mean, that's not good by any means. An elbow thing, obviously, it's not like he's a pitcher where you're worried about straight under the knife, but any baseball player, you don't want to see throwing elbow being an issue because you just don't know how long that's going to go on for. I think that now, knowing that both Will Smith with his nagging injury sounds like he's on the way back, but there's been so much cloudiness around that situation that I feel like you never know to fully trust that. And then for Rushing now on the injured list, you have to be prepared for a possibility that you're going to be heading into the postseason with one of those guys not there for sure. So I think it makes sense that the Dodgers are getting two guys that, like Vince said, that the pitching staff knows and can trust a little bit. And at least for now, I think that Feduccia and Rortvedt will be good enough to tide things over until hopefully Rushing, if it's a short stay, can be back ahead of Will Smith, or Will Smith will be back.
Another thing from Dave Roberts, this is, per Fabian again, he says Emmet Sheehan was optioned. That's from Dave Roberts, Emmet Sheehan optioned. So that's something that I tweeted out yesterday. It's nothing looks right. And last fastball he threw was 91 miles an hour. It was a hit by pitch. Nothing has looked right for Emmet Sheehan this year. Dave has said in recent weeks that they have to just ride with him, because it was kind of, what other options do you got? But you've got options now. But to save what Emmet Sheehan has, I would say his mental, kind of the progression that he's got, that's a move that it's not surprising to see. I just hope the health is okay, but this is a move to really kind of, save him from himself, not have to go out on a big league mound and work through whatever he's going through, because it's not been going well. Vince, what do you make of Emmet Sheehan being optioned?
Yeah, not surprising, and makes sense for the Dodgers, makes sense for Emmet Sheehan, makes sense for all parties involved. This is kind of where it was heading to. Like, he had a very, very, very long leash because of where the Dodgers were at in their pitching, with guys going down, with not much there in the minors. And, whereas Roki was, kind of developing on the fly for a different reasoning, like they don't really want to have him in the minors. I would imagine that was part of the conversations when they first brought him up, or when they first signed him. Sheehan doesn't really have that aspect of it. Like if the Dodgers want to send him back down, they send him back down. They were hoping that something kind of figured out, and maybe he figures out some with the mechanics that maybe Roki figured out in terms of being consistent with the velocity and then being able to play off that with everything else. Because Sheehan's stuff is good, but when the velocity is kind of up and down, when you fall back behind in counts, he doesn't have that kind of stuff to kind of get him back through it. Or not a lot of pitchers can do that. You can't put guys on every inning and get out of it all the time. So good for Sheehan, and maybe I will be interested to see like how long he stays a starter down there, and when they maybe start transitioning into figuring out, hey, could you be helpful in a different way as we move forward.
Yeah, Jack Harris also, put out that Ben Rortvedt will be activated tomorrow. So California Post, Jack Harris puts that Ben Rortvedt will be activated tomorrow. But news right now, Emmet Sheehan optioned after a very, very disappointing season for Emmet Sheehan after the postseason in 2025, where he stepped into a role where you got to see him pitch in leverage, utilize an entire arsenal here. And for me, Bruce, that we've talked about a lot is having the mentality to pitch aggressively, to trust your stuff. And we haven't seen anything like that. It's been super unfortunate, and it's nothing I'd like to see for Emmet Sheehan, who had a lot of promise. So I'm very, very bummed out for the season that Emmet Sheehan has had, who ultimately on, August 3rd, this deep into the season gets optioned.
Yeah, I think the most noteworthy thing with this news here is the fact that it is an option instead of a placing on the injured list. That is clearly the Dodgers stating that this is nothing to do with health. If it was even something simple like arm fatigue that he's been dealing with, I can't imagine that they would be sending him down and putting him in AAA where he's probably still going to be throwing. So I think that this is kind of acknowledging that it has to be a mechanical thing, or they just don't know what it is. And that part is a little bit scary for me. Obviously, it wouldn't be better if he was hurt. I don't want to say that Sheehan is on this trajectory, but the last guy that I remember showing up and just all of a sudden it was like something was wrong, and it didn't seem like they ever identified what it was Bobby Miller, and that situation still hasn't rectified. So hopefully they can send Emmet Sheehan down and get to work in a way that isn't prioritizing getting big league hitters out immediately, and they can really focus on the dev side and work on things instead of just focusing on getting any outs that he can. It wouldn't surprise me either. I think if Sheehan wasn't just in AAA, if they wind up sending him to the complex to work at Camelback Ranch, that wouldn't surprise me either. But this seems like something that they're going to need to be breaking down to pretty much the ground level and really identify exactly what's wrong, because if it's not an injured list thing, then there's something seriously wrong underneath the hood.
Yeah, definitely. Emmet Sheehan was someone that Bruce, we talked about trade packages and things like that. And if he could be a headliner piece, that's nothing I ever envisioned at all. Like as the season progressed, there were glaring things where it was like, we're going to have to monitor how this goes for him, the fluctuation in velocity, the stuff, and how he's getting banged around. We understand at times get swing and miss. The secondary things are going to happen, but it's the contact that he was giving up. It just didn't look clean. None about the process looked clean. I know he had some spots where it was like, yes, there's the upside there, but Emmet Sheehan wasn't someone that I thought would be a headliner in any trade package going out from the Dodgers. It was like maybe the Detroit Tigers would like someone on the big league level. I thought they would press for Justin Robleski, but purely from a results standpoint and as clean of a player as you're going to find, Emmet Sheehan didn't display those things this year.
I think that I still think that Sheehan would have been capable of being a headliner in a package, because I think this is the kind of situation that a lot of teams throughout baseball would be looking at the season that he had last year, and simply put, the trajectory that he was on for his entire professional career before this year, and trying to identify their own fixes and thinking they can get him back to that guy from last year with a change of scenery, any of those kind of factors. it's different to say I don't think that this has specifically come out whether the Tigers were specifically saying they don't want Emmet Sheehan and that they wanted River Ryan instead. But even if it was that Sheehan wouldn't have been good enough to be a frontline for Skubal, I think there absolutely would have been interest in Sheehan throughout the league, but it wouldn't have been at the level that, say, if the Dodgers, they obviously weren't, but if they had shopped him in the offseason before this year, like then it would have been.
Then it would have been big time.
But I don't think that is gone yet because it was recent enough, his success last year, that teams would still be interested in the control, the team control in the ceiling that he has. And even there's been a lot of this year that obviously it's been ugly, but there's been some of his underlying stuff that has still looked better than the overall results. Even after the start yesterday, a 5.29 ERA and the FIP is down at 4.75. It was down in the low fours before yesterday. So I think that obviously it's been a train wreck of a season. I think that is putting it lightly, but there's still been innings that he's had where the velocity's been back up and he'll set him down 1, 2, 3, and you'll think to yourself, hey, that looks like Emmet Sheehan. It's the problem this year has been that he then comes out the next inning throwing 92 and just gets shelled. So I think that there hasn't been a look for Sheehan this year for me. It's why I'm not like all the way out on him long term. There's still been flashes. It's just that the consistency has completely gone by the wayside, and that's what they'll look to attack with this move, sending him down.
Yeah, I agree. I think that like sending him down is you got to protect him from himself. I'm not saying the value is completely gone. That can't be the case just because of how much team control is left, the upside that we've seen. It's just the purely where he's at right now. If the Dodgers, I think another team would like to say, hey, with the Dodgers, let's see if the Dodgers can fix him and then go from there. If a team wants to buy low, the Dodgers don't make that deal. Exactly. You're going to want to get him back. It's like the Dodgers wouldn't include him in there saying, yep, we're going to trade him at his lowest and then go from there. They would wait until they can build him back up at the big league level, show that it's sustainable at the big league level, and maybe even for a blip. Maybe even they get him up for a cup of coffee and it all looks good, process looks good, then they shop him around if that's the route they go to. But it's definitely, that's why I tweeted out yesterday, nothing has gone right. Nothing has gone right with it, and you have to protect from himself, shut it down, reset, find out where they're at, and just like you said, the underlying stuff, find out where you can prop that up and get him right back to where he's at.
Totally. There would have been interest, but it would have been by low interest. And just like you said, that's the kind of interest that the Dodgers aren't going to move him for when they still think that there's something they can fix and not just, sell the stock while it's low.
Absolutely there. Yeah, and I know some people big mad to see him option, but it is what it is. Sucks to suck. Just the way it goes. Vince, buddy, I appreciate you. I'm going to let you head out of here. You're awesome. Great work today, man. You've been, a dynamo for us, DodgerHeads Unplugged this morning. Final word, and I'll let you hop out of here, big man.
Yeah. I like the way this trade deadline goes rather than waiting for the last minute to see what's going to happen. So I appreciate the Dodgers. Appreciate you. For people that don't know who I am, I'm Vince, and I do DodgerHeads Unplugged every weekday morning at 9 a.m. here on the Dodger Blue YouTube channel. So make sure to check it out. And appreciate you guys. And I'll hop on another day. So we'll talk to you guys.
My man. All right, Vince. Talk to you later, buddy. Bruce, while nobody else is here, while Blake's not here, what slander can we say about Blake Williams while he's not here? What do we got?
You're plotting. You've been waiting for this moment, huh?
I mean, he's not here. He's been ducking everything. He told me, no, I didn't say this. This is purely me just yapping. CJ Abrams.
I apologize that you and the entire chat has had to look at the top of my head a lot today. It seems we're at 3:40 now. Seems like that probably done. Never want to say that for sure, but probably done. I am still surprised to see that there hasn't been, for sure, at least one of Lauer or Alex Call come across as a guy that got moved.
I agree. Anthony, welcome back in. It's good to see you again. I am still surprised that Alex Call did not get moved. I would have liked to see them bolster some part of it, but it's just the way they can maneuver the outfield. They're locked with a lot of these positions. They're just locked in with who they currently have. I didn't see a lot of space for them to make, be a deadline where they can bring somebody in who's going to get enough time to justify a move like that. And I think that's kind of where they find themselves at as well. Everybody, I'm address the chat. Thank you. Thanks for riding on me. It's been an hour 40. We're in here. We're doing our thing. Trade deadline edition. Thanks for tuning in to Dodger Blue. Another edition of Dodger Heads Trade Deadline. DodgerBlue.com website and podcast. Everybody who's shown out for us, thank you. Yeah, Alex Call made a hit last night. That was a saving grace. It's like the trade deadline of Michael Conforto deked everybody last year, and that's why they didn't deal and make a move. Anthony, are you surprised at how this last little bit, this quiet trade deadline after the fact, went for the Dodgers?
The Feduccia one was a little, I was like, oh, all right. Had to do a little double take there. But yeah, I get it. It makes sense. All fine with that. Sounds like Bruce, they maybe got a little arm that, you know, could be something someday out of it too. So that's a plus. Yeah, you know, nothing really happened in the hour that I was gone. So, you know, aside from that, but yeah, all good. You know, I think the interesting stuff now is the Rushing IL stint and the Sheehan option and just kind of all that goes along with that.
I will say real quick about that Feduccia trade. This is the second straight year the Dodgers and Rays have been involved in something at the deadline. And just from a fun perspective, I love watching the Dodgers and Rays make trades because it's two organizations that think about things like practically exactly the same. And it seems like they're always they're attacking, trying to see if they can get over on the other super smart front office. And last year, the Dodgers got Paul Gervais and in that Serwanowski trade. And it's interesting to watch those two front offices compete with each other because they're the very top of the game. And seeing Jacob Komatz get moved by the Rays is one of those ones where I think like it almost makes me hesitate a little bit of like the Rays are such a smart front office. I wonder why they're shipping this guy out when the profile looks very intriguing. But it also makes me think the Rays must really like Jack Sawinski and what he's done in AAA this year for the Dodgers. And they're clearly going to plan on him being at least a platoon guy in the big leagues and contributing in the playoffs. And now we could be sitting here in mid-October with Jack Sawinski having put up an 850 OPS the rest of the year and just be laughing at that too. So this could be one of those win-wins for these two super smart organizations.
I mean, you attack a need. You needed that backup. You needed a catcher to come in and fill a spot, considering where you're at. It's great to have the ability to go out and make those moves. And Jack Sawinski was someone who's just going to sit in AAA. It'd be depth for an outfield. It's unfortunate that the Dodgers find themselves in a spot to need, Hunter Feduccia have to reacquire Ben Rortvedt. But this is the spot that you're in, and they did exactly what they needed to do. So we'll see. Anthony, I didn't get your thoughts here on Dalton Rushing real fast. Otherwise, sorry if I was locked in on whatever. Dalton Rushing hitting the injured list. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Anytime they say something is minor, you know that the guy is probably going to be out for a while. So, this kind of falls in line with that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of information on what this injury actually is or how long he might be down. But they need Will Smith back ASAP now. I think they got some guys in at this deadline who can at least handle the staff, and that's a plus because that's the most important part of this. But yeah, at some point you're gonna need one of those two guys back at least because you're gonna need some production out of that spot. But in the short term, though, I think they're fine because again, whether it's Ben, whether it's Feduccia. They have guys who can handle the pitching staff, and that's for the short term. That's the most important part.
The good thing about having Rortvedt and Feduccia in the short term is there's actually, I think, a world where those two guys are upgrades over what Dalton Rushing and Will Smith has brought defensively specifically. Both those guys are good with the glove, especially Feduccia. That was why the Rays targeted him last year. But obviously, there's not going to be really any offensive contribution coming from those two guys, so it's obviously a net negative. I do think like it's going to be you're at least getting something positive on the profile compared to it hasn't looked like that when Chucky Robinson was up or Elias or Alfonso. There certainly hasn't been a feeling like those two guys are really in control of the pitching staff in a huge way. Obviously, Alfonso had a rough day yesterday. behind the plate too. So I think a lot of this was the Dodgers just, like I told you a little bit ago, Scott, they've had a couple of months to look at their third catcher options in the organization, and it's been pretty rough. So this is simultaneously going to hold things over for now, and then they'll have some insurance for the postseason if either one of Rushing or Smith has these injuries lag on. The only thing is, in the short term, if the two catchers on the roster are Feduccia and Rortvedt, any game versus a left-handed pitcher, the Dodgers are going to have an 8-man batting order.
That's what I looked at. That's the splits that I looked at with Feduccia, Rortvedt. So, that's we'll see there. It's going to be grit, boys. That's what it's going to be. At the bottom of that lineup, it's going to be nothing but grit and determination. And I hope they show up just with pine tar and no batting gloves, and that's the way they ride, because we're going to. That's what they're going to have to do. Go up there and grind an AB. But everybody, I'm going to welcome in our fearless leader, Matt Moreno. It's good to see you, buddy. Everybody, I'm going to hop out of here. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you. This has been an awesome edition. But Matt, how you doing, big man? What's up, buddy?
I'm good. I was enjoying watching you guys cover a slow trade deadline, and now this is what become the year of reunions for the Dodgers. And I feel like Nat, we're about to do a whole line change. Anthony was on earlier, and then Scott, it was you, Bruce, and Vince carrying the torch, and now here I am ready to relieve you guys. So I appreciate all your work, and of course we've had a great audience throughout this entire time, and we're still going.
So I'm gonna hop out of here, everybody. Chat, thank you, Anthony, Bruce, Vince, everybody, Matt, thank you. It's good to see you guys. Daniel in the waiting room, I'll chat with you, but it's good to see you all, guys. Chat, I'll tune in with you later. But awesome deadline. Just because they didn't get the big one done today, they got Tarik Skubal, man. Tarik Skubal, baby. All right, everybody, we'll talk later. Big starts tomorrow. Later, guys.
All right, Bruce, I know you've been on and talking a ton, so we'll let you go get. Oops, that was my bad. I'm just trying to rearrange. How did these work? Kind of there we go, dragging the picture. Bruce, thank you. I appreciate you taking on so much talking today with everything that was happening.
Yeah, my very final thought is fingers crossed that Josue De Paul is going to be in AAA very shortly. Now that Jack Sawinski's out of there, maybe Sirota behind him if they find another way to make a spot.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, Bruce, we'll see you guys. See you. All right, with Bruce gone, let's add Daniel.
Hey.
Baseball show, but we did a line change in hockey?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
we went to the bullpen, we could call it. We're the relievers.
Daniel, this is your first time getting a chance to be on here. I know that you did the breaking news show with Anthony over the weekend when the Skubal trade came out. Just your initial thoughts so far on the trade deadline stuff, and then we'll get into the injuries and things like the ripple effect.
Yeah, I mean it was a pretty boring day, but that was to be expected. Especially after they get the Skubal trade done on Saturday night, we weren't expecting more big fireworks today. At least from the Dodgers. I am a little disappointed just the league in general. Like I thought there would be more big trades, and there wasn't really anything major today. But yeah, if you're the Dodgers, you didn't really need anything. Like, yeah, maybe you could have added a bat, but like these guys were talking about on the stream a little earlier, like who are they replacing, and are they clearly better? Probably not going to be. So at that point, it just came down to now this recent catching situation where Will's probably not going to be back for another month, and now Dalton's down. So the way they were able to address that by bringing back two familiar faces and really didn't give up anything of substance, I thought that was solid, and that should help get them through the short term here until at least Will could come back.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Rortvedt trade certainly made a ton of sense to me, and like I joked with you guys, like the only thing I thought is like what took so long. Like this,
yeah,
I think we were all expecting it when Will Smith, once his neck injury continued to linger, it was like, okay, Dodgers obviously need a catcher. They're going to go get Rortvedt. The Feduccia one, though, surprised me. And honestly, that then will tie into, I think, the reason the three of us are extending what was, a trade deadline live show at this point into some updates now. And I know that Scott and Bruce and Vince were discussing it a little bit. And as I think, Anthony, you were in the midst of an answer as well. But if you missed it, Dalton Rushing is going on the injured list because of an elbow strain. That's his right elbow, and he was scratched from the lineup Sunday night due to what the team called minor arm irritation. And so, of course, the minute they described it as minor, I think that was our first clue that this was not going to be something minor. Chucky Robinson's going to be up today, but Dave Roberts told reporters that Ben Rortvedt will be with the team tomorrow. So I imagine that that's going to be, of course, for Chucky Robinson. So his stay will be brief here again. Daniel, just kind of, long-term concern, or where are you at with, obviously, Will Smith? I see here we have a super chat. I could put it up. Toby's asking, is Smith close to returning? He's still at least 3 weeks away. So 3 weeks to a month in kind of best case scenario. I think with Rushing, it's obviously going to be a minimum of 10 days type thing. I think it's fair to assume maybe multiple weeks at that point. But overall level of concern with the Dodgers now being without their top two catchers in the organization.
I think there is some concern. I think it was at least slightly mitigated by the moves they made today. Like I think Feduccia and Rortvedt are better options than the other two gentlemen. No disrespect to them. Bring back an old catchphrase there, but I think there is a little concern. But we are sitting 2 months out from the start of the playoffs, pretty much. So that should give at the very least Will enough time to get back. Like you mentioned, he's probably 3 or 4 weeks out right now, which should give him the whole month of September to get at bats and work himself back into shape for the playoffs. So until Will has some sort of setback, which is definitely possible, we've seen it plenty of times with a lot of these injuries, until that happens, I'm not overly concerned. And Dalton, who knows? Like this, just kind of happened. And when it's an elbow issue, like you said, they say it's mild, but you never really know with them. So we'll see. But at the very least, if you get Will back, you feel like you're covered there, especially now you have two solid backup type options with whoever you want to pick between Rortvedt and Feduccia. So yeah, you'd love to get Rushing back in time for the playoffs, just because he has more thump in that bat than these other backup options. But at the very least, if Will is back, I think you'll end up being okay.
Anthony, when I hopped in the backstage, were you discussing Sheehan or the catching situation?
Both.
Okay.
But I didn't get into any big detail on either one because I had just hopped in. But yeah, I think that the catching situation, you feel a lot better about it from a depth perspective than you did 24 hours ago, but you don't feel great about it because you don't have a number one right now. And so we do know that Will Smith is, they said, 3 to 4 weeks away. That's a long time. And Rushing is out at least 10 days. So, we're going to get this rotating, this revolving door of probably Rortvedt, and I would think, I don't know who the second guy would be at this point.
Well, Feduccia it's going to be Feduccia. He was in the major leagues with the Rays, not performing at a
so they had to put him on the 40
level,
man,
but he's at least a major league caliber player. You could say.
Yeah, so it would be him, because I wasn't sure about the 40-man stuff, but if he was coming from a 40-man, then he'll be on the 40-man. Okay. So you feel fine about, and this is what I was saying, the most important part of this in the short term is that both of those guys are really good at handling the pitching staff, and they have some familiarity. How much Feduccia has, I'm not exactly sure with this newest crop of rotation.
A lot of the younger guys probably, not enough so much
exactly. So
So
the point being is that they can both handle a staff, and I think that for the short term, that's the most important part, especially as guys start to come back, and you're working Skubal in and all of this kind of stuff. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but you need one of those guys one of the starters to get back quickly.
So I guess maybe we shouldn't fully rule out potential trades. Jorge Castillo just tweeted a minute ago, the Cardinals are getting right-hander Daniel Egan, left-hander Sandro Santana, and the player to be. Oh, never mind. He was following up. My bad. I apologize. I was going to say about an hour is
Newport trade.
Yeah, he was following up on something. So my apologies there. And I was going to say I'm not sure if Scott brought this up before I was able to hop in the room. Dave Roberts did tell reporters that it was his understanding that Eric Lauer and Skubal, Eric Lauer and Alex Call were still with the team. And Lauer is now lined up to start Wednesday. And before we get into that, I will add, I think it's Anthony, the points you brought up about these guys having familiarity with the pitching staff. I don't think it's any accident that not only did the Dodgers go and get multiple catchers, but they got multiple catchers that they are familiar with that then are familiar with the organization as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think they understood the problem and they went and said, we need to address this. So good for them for getting those two guys. It's not going to be splashy, but it's going to be impactful for this team in particular. Like nobody's going to, from the outside, is going to look at this and go, oh man, they got Ben Rortvedt and Hunter Feduccia. But like in the short term, it's going to be important for them that it's those two guys, I think. So
you don't think
around,
those
boys.
You don't think those are going to cause those are the moves that are going to cause the lockout this offseason?
Yeah, when they got Rortvedt, I said this is really the trade that's going to break baseball.
We had another super chat come in. This one's I thought Roz. Are there two names that are being used here? It says take on Alex Call not being dealt. This was a surprise to me going into it. I'm guessing that there probably just wasn't the asking price or enough of an enticing option for them to trade Alex Call, Daniel.
Yeah, I would guess that's probably what it came down to. There was some reports in recent days. Who was it? The Rangers and the Twins, I think. Maybe it's always the random teams. But yeah, ultimately there probably just wasn't a deal to line up there. And like, I am surprised just because he doesn't really have a role on this team, especially recently. Like I think Blake tweeted a few minutes ago that the last 4 times they faced a lefty, he wasn't even in the lineup, which in theory that kind of was his role on this team. But when you have Teo pretty much playing every day, Pages definitely playing every day, Tucker playing most days, like there's just not too many at bats to go around, and you don't want to trade him away and call up a young prospect to take on that role, if you could even call it one, of just kind of riding the bench and maybe starting once a week. So I think ultimately they're probably fine just keeping Call, in that spot and letting, Alex Freeland and Kim and all these guys just keep getting, at bats in AAA as opposed to sitting on the bench, with the big league team.
Yeah. Anthony, any level of surprise for you that Call and Lauer, and we'll get into Lauer more specifically here in a minute, but that they both made it past the deadline?
Not Lauer for pretty obvious reasons, and we talked about that in the first hour on the show. That one, we didn't think he was probably going to get moved, and the reasoning behind that, we'll get into it again. But Call a little bit surprised, but like I don't think that they were like desperately trying to get off of him for any reason. Like, it's fine. Like I think that's probably how they looked at it. Like if he moves, cool. If he doesn't, it's fine. Yeah. So he's still here. He'll play a role whenever the number is called, and it is what it is. He had openly said too, like, I don't want to leave. I don't think that had anything really to do with it, but I say that to say, like, I don't think that because his playing time is getting cut down that like he'll be a cancer in the clubhouse or anything like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. I think one thing working in his favor is that he's understanding and accepting of the role that he's in. And sure, like, I think it's also somebody like him, he's, as Daniel said, no disrespect to the Nationals, but he obviously came over from he has seen the other side, and he would probably rather, be in this part-time role with a World Series contender than starting every day with the Nationals.
I would say, honestly, sorry, you go ahead.
The important outfield part was clearing some space at AAA, and they did that.
I was even going to add to it more. I was going to say, the more I think about it, I'm more surprised that they didn't trade a guy like Ryan Ward to clear up even more at bats at AAA, as opposed to Call, which he's not even taking up many at bats in the big leagues. So it's not like you're trying to clear space to call someone up or something. So I'm more surprised that they didn't include Ryan Ward in one of these deals, whether it be the Bubic one or even the Hunter Feduccia one. Like here, Rays, like you could have Ryan Ward here because we don't really have much use for him, if we're being honest.
Honestly, I would have put my money on Ward being moved before Call, and neither guy went. So
the Ryan Ward trade is coming during the offseason. He's going to be sent to the Cubs the way Michael Busch was. That's how that one's going to end up going. We've alluded to it, obviously mentioned it. Eric Lauer
for a guy that the Dodgers will later flip for Paul Skeens.
Even better. Eric Lauer still with the team. And we were posing the question here. If you're listening and don't see it, our banner says, is he the biggest winner from the trade deadline? And it's a little obviously tongue in cheek there, but not only is he still sticking with the Dodgers, but he's going to remain, it seems like, in the rotation with news of Emmet Sheehan getting option to AAA Oklahoma City. Anthony, I'll go to Daniel, since Anthony, I know you guys discussed Lauer kind of earlier on. Daniel, how did you see, you haven't really been on a ton discussing a lot of the Sheehan stuff. So what have you made of his season and struggles? And did you start to feel maybe over the last few days that as much as there was smoke and signs that the Dodgers were considering trading Lauer, that it might be smarter to just keep him?
Yeah. I think last night was kind of the breaking point for that. Like, Sheehan had been not great, obviously, but he had been getting by, giving them innings at least. But he's really struggled here the last few starts. And then last night, that was, really rough, to the point where now they obviously felt they needed to option him. And I don't think you'll find anyone that disagrees with that move, at this point in time. So I think once, you really reached that breaking point with Sheehan, it was like, yeah, we can't trade Lauer unless we're acquiring another starter, which they did in Bubic, but he's going to be out for another few weeks. So at that point, you kind of need Lauer just to eat innings right now. And obviously he's been great for way better than anyone could have expected. They've won, every single game he started. So to me, it's like, well, we'll just keep rolling him out there once a week. And obviously the playoffs is probably a different story once guys get healthy. But for now, he's more needed than the, probably mid to lower tier prospect that you would have got for him, So in that sense, I thought it made sense to keep him and just keep throwing him out there, with Sheehan back in AAA.
Yeah, I agree. And Anthony, I know we've discussed Lauer and Sheehan a lot, and I'll let you sort of, share some of that again in case people have missed it. But while Anthony is doing that, I think I want to make sure that we have time to also answer some questions here with this show. And also I can tell you that the Dodgers just made the Hunter Feduccia trade official here. So it's Hunter Feduccia, and they also acquired Jacob Katz. Is the M silent in his last name? I should have listened to Bruce when he was pronouncing it. And they said Jack
Bruce. I'll say Bruce was intrigued with him, so we'll take that. I don't know about the pronunciation, but he might be a decent pitcher.
Yeah, Jack Sawinski and international bonus pool money going to the Rays in that trade. So guys, start throwing your questions in the chat. Just reminder, started with the word question in all caps. And while those are coming in, Anthony, just your final thoughts on sort of Lauer's outlook moving forward. And I know, maybe the postseason still is going to be a little uncertain. Obviously, knock on wood, the Dodgers would want to get healthy, but for the time being, Lauer's importance to the rotation.
Yeah, I think that he's earned a spot, right? He's got a 2.96 ERA in more than 50 innings as a Dodger. And so like they clearly have seen enough to go, okay, we would like to keep you while we sort of fill this rotation out with the guys who are coming back and Tarik Skubal. And I think Sheehan's last audition was yesterday, and it was a disaster. And I honestly think the where he was falling in the schedule bought him extra time probably too. They kind of had a need for him, so maybe that's not exactly the case, but I think it allowed him to continue to try to audition for the spot. He pitched against the Padres before they got hot, and he pitched against the Mets, who are the Mets. And he pitched exactly the same way he did basically against the Red Sox yesterday, but he got away with it in those starts, and the lines looked okay, like 6 innings, 1 run, like kind of lines. And then he faced a team that was like probably major league ready, and he got pummeled. And not a lot had changed from start to start with him. And in fact, yesterday things had probably gotten worse. Like that fastball was at 91 in the 3rd inning at some points. You cannot keep running that out there. You have to figure it out. And now that they don't have the necessary need for him to fill out the 6th man, it's probably the right call that he's getting optioned, because it looked like he was completely lost. And that, with Lauer actually earning the spot, I think makes the decision easy. And then I also think going forward, like Snell's going to come back probably at this time next week, around this time next week. And so Lauer has experience in the bullpen. And so you want to keep that guy. You're already, probably you'd like to add some arms to the pen. Here's maybe a way to add an arm, give Lauer a little break, and he's also there if you need him. So I think it's a win. Lauer's earned his spot. I'm glad he stayed. Him and his wife have talked about, how much they've loved the organization, how much they've loved LA so far. So it's a nice story for him. I think it's a nice story for the organization. Another guy they've rehabilitated. My guess is the offers for him probably were not overwhelming. And so they were like, relatively speaking, right? And so they were like, we should just keep this guy. Like, we'll just keep him, fine. Like, that's totally fine with us. If you're not going to wow us with something, then this guy's part of our rotation. Look at the numbers.
Yeah. And as much as, in the Dodgers' perfect world, there might not necessarily be a spot for Eric Lauer on their postseason pitching staff, but as we have seen time and time again, you typically don't get to October with a perfect plans in place, and so he is certainly somebody who is going to be valuable to have around. Didn't see a whole lot of didn't really see questions come in. We got one, and we also have a super chat, so we'll get to those, and then if anything trickles in here, then we'll answer it as well. But otherwise, we've cleared 2 hours and 5 minutes now with this show. I know Daniel and myself are a little bit fresher voices, but we don't want to keep rehashing the same stuff. Especially, I guess Anthony and I, we were part of the 2 hour plus marathon last night.
Oh man,
we've had some marathon shows because me and Daniel got on Saturday night, and it was, I don't know what time was it, 9 o'clock or something like that, and we were like, all right, let's get in and out. We were on for almost an hour.
Yeah. So hey, we love this time of year though, right? It's exciting to be able to talk about stuff. Another super chat from Ross says, might be too ahead here, but how do we expect tomorrow to go with Skubal and Rortvedt? I mean, that's your game one starting pitcher and catcher there. So I'm expecting
7 1/3, 1 run, 11 strikeouts. Does that sound good to everybody?
The 1 run seems like a lot to me. I think we need to get a scoreless outing.
The Cubs got re-energized today. They had themselves a little deadline, so they're going to be pumped up. They'll get 1 run.
That's good point. They did. I mean, and in all seriousness, it will be interesting to see how quickly those guys, arrive on the team and get integrated. But I mean, good for the Cubs, and the Red Sox. I think we're pretty aggressive today too, with the momentum that they have generated all of a sudden. Like we talk, unfortunately, a lot about.
They got to be careful they don't break baseball, though.
Yes, we do talk.
You're not supposed to be too aggressive.
That's true. We do talk a lot about that stuff that the Dodgers, the criticism they take, and so on and so forth. Like, it is good when these teams are like trying to win. And I think the Cubs and Red Sox, credit to them, like these are legitimate efforts. And I think even the Pirates, which was a little surprising, they were pretty aggressive today in some of their additions. So that is good to see them doing it. But Daniel, what do you think from Skubal and presumably Rortvedt tomorrow?
There's one matchup in particular that I will be looking forward to, and that's Tarik Skubal versus Michael Busch, because with only 1 degree of separation, they technically were kind of traded for each other. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think if Ben brings anything back there, we know he could handle a staff, and we're not counting on him to get big hits or anything, but at the very least, he should be able to get on the same page with Tarik pretty quickly. Easy guy to catch. He takes care of most of it from on that mound with his stuff and his command and whatnot. So I think it should be a good start.
And they're both, I believe Ben is there already, and so they're both with the team. Like, Ben should be attached at Tarik's hip all day today,
sure.
To get any extra comfort level you can get when you're catching the guy tomorrow. Go and do that.
Maybe they'll go get from it. They'll strategize over some Portillos out there in Chicago.
Hey,
Anthony, does that meet your expectations? Is that an okay place, or are we gonna talk down Portillos?
It's fine. It's a chain though. Like,
yeah, it's good for what it is.
It's good for what it is.
Like
yeah, but
dining,
if I'm in Chicago, like,
solid. Yeah.
Yeah, you can take me to a local spot, and
that's a good point. I'm thinking of us in Southern California stuck in needing to rely on Portillos.
Chicago's a great food town. I used to live about an hour away from it while I was in Milwaukee, and any like off days or things like, or anytime I had time, I would head down there. The food there is fantastic.
Yeah, it is really good as long as you stay away from the deep dish pizza.
I knew that was coming from you.
Back to baseball. Far from Trouble says, I have yet to watch Edwin Diaz since he came back from the injured list. Will he slot right back into the closer role, or will he share the role with Tanner Scott? And who is our 8th inning guy? So since you have missed it, Edwin Diaz is back in the closer role, and he is also he pitched on back-to-back days, even though the second night was a non-save situation. So not only is he the closer, the Dodgers are using him aggressively. Tanner Scott is bumped out of that role. I think he's probably now like in more of a fireman type thing. Probably one of the top options for the 8th inning. Not the only guy that they'll use in the 8th inning. There's some flexibility there, but yes, the core of that is Edwin Diaz is the closer. Let's see a couple more here. Johnny wants to know, will the Dodgers sign Skubal before December 1st? And that date obviously is sticking out because it's when the CBA expires and the lockout presumably will be put into place. Daniel, Anthony, and I have answered this. I don't know if you guys did. You guys get it on Saturday?
We touched on it a little bit. Okay. But I would say normally the answer would be no, but just because of the lockout, I think, it's not zero. Like I still wouldn't say it's super high, but with so much uncertainty, like if you're a guy like him, you might just want to get, locked up now or sometime before the lockout starts, not have to worry about it. We saw a little bit of that last time in 2021. Like I remember Corey Seager got his deal done. Trey Turner got his deal done. But then there were other people like Freddie Freeman who kind of waited out the lockout and it didn't really, hinder anything. But, this is kind of a different situation here. I think people are expecting more drastic changes. So with that being the case, if you're Skubal, you have to at least consider it, I'd say.
There's one big name that you're forgetting from that free agency class. So I'll give you a couple seconds to try to remember to see if you can come up with it. There's another contract that snuck in before the buzzer.
Before?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll let you tell me. It's probably someone.
Chris Taylor.
Oh, Chris Taylor. Okay, yeah, there you go. I was gonna say the one thing that I remembered is they were at someone's wedding and Friedman was on the phone with Freddie wedding. Right before midnight. Yeah. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's the one thing I do remember.
Yeah. Let's see. We have Don Kim he says Lauer is still a Dodger. LOL. Did not see that happening. Doesn't Lauer not like pitching out of the bullpen? What is the plan for him? So in terms of the bullpen stuff, Lauer has he's clarified, that whole situation that occurred with the Blue Jays. And he said the issue was he didn't necessarily have the clarity of when he would be entering the game. And when Lauer did pitch out of the bullpen in his one game with the Dodgers, one of his only bullpen appearance with the Dodgers so far, Dave Roberts said, look, we're going to have an opener for the first inning, and then the game is yours. You're in at that point. So Lauer appreciated that clarity and insight. The good news is...
Yeah, I think the beef was with the opener, having an opener, not necessarily like pitching as a reliever.
Yeah. And the good news for Lauer is he's starting on Wednesday, and he's going to remain in the rotation for the time being. I guess it could be short-lived given that Snell is probably back, like Anthony said, about a week from now. But Sheehan was optioned, Dong. If you missed it, Sheehan was optioned down to Oklahoma City. So that's opening. Lauer's not only on the team, but it's opening a spot in the rotation. Okay, two more here.
I think considering what the roster looks like, the Tarik Skubal thing, I think he sees the writing on the wall. He's got plenty of time to process it and understand what's happening. I think he would rather be in the Dodger bullpen than in Baltimore's rotation or whatever. And so. And speaking of the communication front, that is Doc's strength, right? It's not so much the X's and O's, it's that part of it. And so I'm sure he'll go back there understanding that, look, I proved myself. There may be something on the way for me next year. But he's done his job and he's done it super, super well. And I think the Dodgers are happy to still have him on the roster, actually.
I agree. I think
just to add on to that, I think just real quick, like the Dodgers have created a clubhouse culture that you have to check your ego at the door no matter who you are. Yes. Like superstar Eric Lauer, your role is your role and you're here to help this team win. And I think everyone's for the most part has been happy to do that.
Yeah, those are great points. And Anthony, I think you hit the nail on. I truly do believe this could end up being a win-win for everybody. You don't know, like we said, you don't necessarily know, unfortunately, what injuries could happen or what may come up between now and October, and even during October, as Vince, mentioned on the show when he was on earlier. The Dodgers have had relievers get hurt during a playoff series, and then you're advancing and you're needing to tap into your, organizational depth type thing. And so having Lauer around will be beneficial for that, not only, as a starter, reliever, whatever, long reliever, whatever the case is going to end up being. The other thing I will mention is too, Andrew Friedman did say during his press conference that, he had discussed things with Lauer about going into the bullpen in a bulk role. So I think the Dodgers are certainly communicating with him about that. And Anthony, as you noted, on like Lauer, he is now like he's staying with the World Series contender, presumably, assuming they don't, DFA him at some point because of a roster crunch. He continues contributing and the Dodgers win a World Series. He does hit free agency and he says, look, like I joined them, turned my year around, contributed both of these ways, won a World Series. Like that is, free agency might not come until 2028, but when it does eventually get started, he will have a nice feather in his cap to hit the open market with.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, like he landed in a perfect place for what his situation was. And he's going to, I think, walk out of here with opportunity. And so happy for him. And like I said, I think it's a good thing that he ended up staying past the deadline.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get to a few more of these here. Toby wants to know, is Gratterall an option this season? And then apologizes, says, sorry, I'm not up to date. Brusdar Gratterall will not be pitching this year. He unfortunately had back surgery. Although I guess I don't know if he's officially been ruled out or it's more of like, yeah, we're not expecting it. But for the most part, he don't expect to see Brusdar Gratterall this season. Another one from Roz says, if you're Andrew Friedman, how would you approach Ohtani to focus on hitting the rest of the season and postseason if we have enough elite starting pitching? Anthony, I know you've been big on the, Ohtani should pitch, and if he's healthy, like let him pitch type thing. So do you think this is a conversation that the Dodgers have with Ohtani at some point?
Bruce just dropped in our group chat. Klay Thompson is working on a buyout with the Mavericks, and he's expected to sign with the Lakers.
No, that's fake. That's
okay.
fake.
Is it?
No, that's a fake report.
Okay, I did see something swimming around earlier today.
I
just ignored it.
Is this fake?
Anyway, yeah, I think Ohtani will pitch again, and I think that if they can go into October with the rotation of, in some order, Skubal, Yamamoto, Snell, and then in the fourth game, be able to piggyback Ohtani and Glasnow, let's say for 3 and 4 innings each or something like that. That's devastating. Yeah. That is, I mean, you're running 2 frontline starters out in game 4 and you're facing them in the same game as the opposing staff. And then maybe they can get you to Tanner Scott, Edwin Diaz. Like, I think that when the time comes, like they're going to say, okay, we're ready to bring Ohtani back, probably at some point in September, it would be my guess. Because now they can afford to just rest him, like just chill out for a while. That's an absolutely damaging rotation in the postseason, like quite possibly the best ever that baseball's seen. And so if you have that option and you're going for the three-peat, do it, run it.
Yeah, I agree. Food one from Roz asking the three of us, do we like Chicago style hot dogs? This will surprise absolutely nobody, but no, this is not something that is up my alley. So I'll leave it to you guys to answer this.
How do you eat your hot dogs then, Matt? Just wiener?
I like
bun?
chili. I like chili cheese. I don't need a ton of hot dogs, to be honest. I mean, I'll do ketchup. Yeah, I mean, that's like I don't care for relish. Not a mustard fan. Don't like onions.
Fair, yeah. Yeah, I don't like onions either, but aside from that, like I'm fine with them. I used to live in a place in Milwaukee that used to be open till 3 a.m. like daily. So you could understand like at what kind of shape writer. I would walk into that place on some days. But it was a Chicago style, like tiny hole in the wall place. Fantastic. So yeah, I don't have a problem with Chicago style dogs. I just don't do the onions.
GI saying beef sandwiches. Daniel, go. You can share your.
I was going to say the beef sandwiches are way better. I'm not a big
that
hot dog guy.
By a mile.
Yeah, I would have a hot dog, but if we're going to like Portillo's, for example, I'm getting the beef sandwich.
Yeah, me too. And Scott's bringing up Mario Lopez, questionable social media activity that he could, I guess, blame it on. You can blame it on AI, but if you gave AI the prompt, then I don't know how much blame you can put on AI at that point.
That was pretty bad.
If you didn't see it, be thankful. If you did see it, we're sorry. And I saw it, so I made sure these guys had to see it as well. All right, let's close out on this one. Not a question, but Hepatitis said this is an A+ deadline. I'm assuming for the Dodgers. Maybe it's just baseball overall, but we'll say for the Dodgers. What grade are you guys giving the Dodgers? And I mean, I know that it might be easy to give, the obvious answer, but try to explain why. Daniel, you can go first.
I'll say A. I think obviously you get the best player traded at the deadline, Tarik Skubal. You keep him away, from the other teams, specifically in the NL. And I think by all accounts, I'm not the biggest prospect guy, but it was a very reasonable package. Like, yeah, they gave up, some guys that hurts a little bit, but given the overall state of the farm system, I think you're pretty happy with that package. And then I guess I expected maybe a little more today as far as, maybe trading a Ryan Ward or an Alex Call or, maybe going out and getting a bench bat. So that's what's keeping the plus off the A for me. But I still think it was a really good deadline for the Dodgers. And looking around the league, I think the Cubs, did pretty well to get in the mix. But outside of that, none of their – maybe the Padres, you could say, but I don't look at them as a huge threat. So I don't think any of their –
they're coming for the division now.
Got that much better. Like the Brewers and the Braves, like they made minor moves, but didn't really go out and make the big moves. So I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm super disappointed if I'm a Brewers fan today.
Yeah,
that's true. Watch out, everybody, because we have Boston Blake on the staff, and now we have San Diego Daniel joining him. There, so.
I don't know about that.
Talking up the Padres coming for the Dodgers crown in the NL West. Anthony, what grade are you giving the Dodgers?
It was an A on Saturday night when they got Tarik Skubal, and I really like the Kris Bubic. Is it Bubic? Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
I really like the Bubic deal. He's coming back soon. It sounds like I just saw the thing on Twitter that said from Fabian that said that he threw his first bullpen session yesterday, so he's going to build back as a reliever. And then if you needed any other reason, our guy Bruce tweeted out that he really thinks this was a great move and that everybody could be wondering in a few months how the Dodgers pulled it off. That's my plus. So they get an A+ from me. I'm with Hep C here.
I like it. I'm also going A+. I think as Tarik Skubal obviously speaks for itself. And like I said on our show Sunday night, to me, the starting Skubal did become a need. I have concerns about Ohtani's knee and pitching, and I think that the Skubal addition takes pressure off. And not only that, but then also if something does, unfortunately happen to go wrong with Snell and or Glasnow, you were going to be, I think, stuck in a difficult position there. But with some insurance that if you want to, no disrespect to Tarik Skubal, but you do have a big insurance policy there with him. And I think anytime you can go and bring back the legend that has been Rortvedt, you just have to do it. And so those two alone are the A+ for me. And then you add on everything else that the Dodgers did. And I think it was a good deadline. I know that, doing these shows, people were calling for a bat and so on and so forth. And we've discussed the offense on here and when we text about it. And sure, the offense is not necessarily meeting expectations in some sense. Anthony, we did walk through a lot of different stats, and they were top 5, especially with runners in scoring position. We did that just last night. So I think, there is some give and take there. But again,
that's not to say that they couldn't use an injection of offense at some point, but it's just logistically, it's hard to pull off. Right. And then
where was it going to come for the Dodgers?
Exactly. That's the other part is like the Nationals had a couple of really, impactful bats, but they weren't moving them. Like you want Ralphie Devers? There wasn't names, there wasn't bats out there to go and get. And then if you did, you're going to have to displace somebody who is a regular on your roster, and they're not benching Tucker and they're not benching Teo. And so if we're being realistic about it, there really wasn't anything to go do offensively.
Matt, I got a question for you. Going back to the catcher conversation, since they were reuniting with some old friends, do you think your boy, the real AB, got a call? Or
maybe after the Dodgers reached out to the Mets about a month ago and they said, no, we're not ready yet. Maybe the Dodgers turned to Barnes and said, hey, what are you up to these days? I'm good out
Bring
here.
Bring them all back. Why not?
I'm good out in Riverside County with Joe Kelly hanging out. I don't know if they're really hanging out. But, no, maybe they should bring him back as a special advisor to the catchers or something. Create a position.
I'm surprised they haven't yet, honestly. I mean, maybe they will in a year or two, but yeah.
Well, he's just done recently, right?
I don't even think he's like officially retired, but
Okay.
Yeah,
mean,
I
they're
think
waiting for that.
was it maybe the Mets signed him to a minor league deal in like spring training, but then I think they released him like
that's right.
before the season, and then I don't know if he ever caught on with anyone after that. So
yeah, I forgot to do that. Daniel, before we close out, Rouse wants to know what you're doing here and not in Slovenia for Lucas mini camp.
I didn't get that invite, unfortunately. Sounds fun though.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate everybody who joined us. We had this show going live at 2 p.m. Pacific, and through the trade deadline, and it was a little slow until then. The Dodgers started like I said, the reunion party here. And so again, a big thank you to everybody for sticking with us. I've seen our audience. The numbers have not dropped throughout the entire 2+ hours, so we really appreciate that support. Vince will be back on with the DodgerHeads Unplugged Tuesday morning, like he does it Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then Anthony and Scott back on Tuesday night. And it's Skubal, as much as the trade deadline is now passed, we get Skubal's Dodgers debut. And also, I didn't realize it until I was putting the article together. It's going to be his first start ever at Wrigley Field as well. So kind of nice little added detail there for Skubal. So
Great
definitely,
time for a no-hitter.
yeah, there we go. Well, I mean, especially with Rortvedt behind the plate. I mean, come on.
That guy's used to taking no-hitters into the ninth.
And Dave Roberts is used to taking pitchers out of no-hitters, so we'll see how that one plays out.
Yes, something's going to have to give. So make sure, again, that you are subscribed to the Dodger Blue 1958 YouTube channel. Also, we have our Dodger Blue podcast as well, if that's how you prefer to consume your media. You can find us on Apple, Google, Spotify, all the podcasting places. That's going to do it for us. Again, Anthony, thank you. I know you pulled double duty here. You started us off, and now we're closing it as well, so we appreciate it.
I'm on a run. I'm beyond this. It was Saturday with Daniel, yesterday with you and Bruce, today with everybody, tomorrow
trade
with
deadline
Scotty.
season, baby.
Let's go, baby. I'm in this. See, I'm hitting. I'm like Yamamoto. Like I prep for the post All-Star break.
There we
go.
Yeah. Anthony, and then maybe we'll have to keep the streak going, get you over on Lakers Nation on Wednesday night, and then have you.
There you go. There you go.
We'll just keep seeing how much we could push you. We'll do what Dave Roberts says. We'll check in with you each morning. Hey, how are you feeling today? Good. Okay, great. We need you for a couple innings tonight. But in all seriousness, we really do appreciate the support you guys continue to show us, and we have a great staff. And we got to feature a lot of our almost everybody here today. So. A big thank you if you tuned in. If you happen to miss it, rewind the show on YouTube. You could check everything out. And we will be back with you guys again tomorrow. Thanks.